Emperor of the Desert. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 226. Overwhelming. No way. So exaggerated. Has the hero department ever fought against something like this? Is this what the obstacle in the obstacle race means? Is this the imaginary enemy encountered in the entrance examination? Standing at the front, Todoroki's eyes fixed, and then he showed a disappointed expression. This is a rare opportunity. I really hope you can prepare more powerful obstacles. Cold mists began to pour out from his palms and feet. A dozen giant green robots made of various heavy armor plates, with 8 eyes on their heads, swept over Todoroki on the ground. The eye set up inside made a judgment instantly. The current surged, the mechanical shaft and gears were driven, and then the huge metal arm immediately swung down towards Todoroki below. At this time, Todoroki swung his arm, and large pieces of frost instantly spread forward. Large pieces of ice that came from nowhere froze the bodies of more than a dozen giant imaginary enemies within 100 meters. Without any hesitation, Todoroki took a step, creating multiple layers of ice starting from his feet, pushing him through the obstacle formed by giant imaginary enemies at a very fast speed. After all, my bastard dad is watching. In Todoroki's eyes, including the left eye covered with red burn marks, there was a faint hatred. Too amazing. Todoroki classmate, so experienced. He opened up the gap in one breath. Watching him rush through the robot array, Mike immediately used high-pitched commentary to provoke the audience to exclaim, "You are quite good at pretending." Qin Ren, who acted as Quartz's second male, naturally heard Todoroki's words and couldn't help but sneered. What about Todoroki's family situation? The main problem should be said to be a loveless marriage. Todoroki's father is Endeavor, the number 2. He is a man with an extraordinary competitive spirit and has an extremely strong sense of confrontation with number 1 All Might. He wants to surpass All Might even if he dies, but he also knows that he can't do it, so he has his eyes on the next generation. In order to obtain an heir who surpasses himself and All Might, Endeavor used means such as money and status to conduct a personality marriage. As the name suggests, it is a marriage with personality as the goal. He married a woman with an ice personality and gave birth to 4 children. The personalities of the first 3 were either strong in ice or strong in fire, and none of them had a balance of ice and fire. The 4th child, Todoroki Shido, had a personality with a perfect balance of ice and fire. Although there was no substantial domestic violence such as beating and scolding, his attitude towards his wife was very bad, and because his wife had no feelings for him, she was extremely disgusted by him. In martial arts fantasy novels, this is the so-called marriage. He took laissez-faire attitude towards the other 3 children with weak personalities, but Todoroki Shito's personality was perfect in Endeavor's eyes. So he gave Shito a Spartan-style strict education since he was 5 years old. Over time, because Endeavor's wife hated Endeavor so much, she even became a little crazy. She also thought that Todoroki, who was half red and half white, was more and more like Endeavor and more annoying. Then she picked up the freshly boiled water and poured it on the red left half of Todoroki's face from her head. That's how Todoroki got the scar on his face, and Endeavor's wife was diagnosed with mental illness because of this behavior and was sent to the hospital for 10 years. And Todoroki naturally blamed Endeavor for the cause, and stubbornly rebelled, not using the fire personality, but only using the ice personality from her mother. Qin Ren didn't feel anything about this. Modern people have seen everything, but even if there are families where the father abuses the mother, they have never seen a mother scolding her son with boiling water, not to mention that there is no domestic violence at all. But she just hates her husband and takes her anger out on her son. Well, forget it. It's none of his business anyway. During the training for the past 2 weeks, he also persuaded Todoroki Shido, following the way Madara persuaded Todoroki in the original novel, saying, "You don't use fire because you hate your father? Isn't fire your own quirk?" In fact, he wanted to say something like, "If you have the ability, You can learn from this to cut bones to return your father and cut flesh to return your mother. But after thinking carefully, he didn't care whether it was his business or not. Why did he say that? Whatever he wanted to do. He raised his head and looked at Bakugo, who used the explosive quirk to pass over the robot, and Kirishima and Tetsu, who rushed out while the robot was frozen. Qin Ren also moved. Although they were frozen by Todoroki Shido, their huge size also meant that Todoroki Shido could not be frozen tightly. If they just wanted to pass through, Todoroki Shido would not use all his strength to freeze it. After Todoroki passed through, the huge robot was already able to move. The main reason for acting as Quartz Jikshin was fun, but he could also gain momentum points. However, Quartz Tsuyoshi's quirk is to create quartz, but he cannot control the quartz to float. His eyes swept over the 800 million who unbuttoned his clothes and created cannons from his body, and Qin Ren also smiled. Although Quartz Tsuyoshi's quirk cannot create so many quartz, doing so will make Quartz Tsuyoshi investigated later, but it doesn't matter. Qin Ren looked at the rows of giant robots in front of him and walked forward slowly. Hey, wait, Quartz, are you going to die? Quartz, do you have any ideas? Several ordinary science students who knew Quartz Tsuyoshi and Beastlingta from Class B couldn't help but speak to stop him, but the next moment's wish! What is that? The teachers, professional heroes, and ordinary people who watched through the screen couldn't help but open their mouths wide. Endless quicksand surged out of the body of Quartz Tsuyoshi, surging like a flood. The giant robots that were about to attack him were pushed to both sides by the flood like quicksand, breaking the surrounding railings and pushing the giant robots out of the field. However, Quartz Jiro strolled leisurely, as if he was taking a walk. In the quicksand flood, there was still a giant robot going upstream. To be precise, it was deliberately released by the Qin people. As for why it was released, the Qin people's magic power was agitated, and Quartz Jikshin raised his hand, and a yellow white line was drawn with the movement of his fingers. Endless quicksand sprayed out from between Quartz Jikshin's fingers at high speed, like a high-pressure sand-filled water knife, instantly cutting off the robot's body. Moreover, it was cut in half. Boom! The huge robot, half of its body fell down, fell into the quicksand, and was then submerged by the quicksand and pushed out of the field. Mike, who was sitting in the commentary booth, opened his mouth wide, and quickly flipped through the personality chart on the table, found the identity of this person, and continued to explain. Ordinary department Quartz Jikshin. It's amazing. He actually produced a large amount of quartz, and pushed all the robots out of the field in one breath. What? Ordinary department? Such an amazing personality is actually ordinary department? This is too strong. By the way, this personality is very similar to Izir. Right? Such a large amount of sand. Among the current professional heroes, only Izir can do it. Just when they were about to comment on Todoroki Shido's actions, they saw Quartz Jikshin's even more exaggerated actions. The audience couldn't help but start talking and making all kinds of exclamations. At the same time, some people's topics extended to Qin Ren. Chapter 227. If something goes wrong, you are responsible, understand? Although Quartz second hero produced a large amount of sand and excluded a large number of giant robots, it also left a huge sand dune blocking everyone. But compared to robots, this is much better. Among a group of students, someone made a sound, and then activated his own personality, trying to cross the sand dune. However, seeing their actions, Qin Ren couldn't help but chuckle, but he seemed to remember something. Oh no, I almost forgot. This is for your assessment. I have to make it more difficult for you. In the arena, Quartz second hero raised his hand, absorbed countless black and gray gravel from the ground, and sprayed it onto the sand dune. In a blink of an eye, the entire sand dune turned black and gray. Then, in the mouth where the quicksand condensed, the gravel trembled, imitating the vocal cords and making the voice of Quartz second hero. Let me remind you first, these are flint sands. And his voice was also transmitted to the audience through the broadcast camera. Flint sand? What is that? I don't know. What is its use? Among the crowd blocked by the quicksand, Babe Wanbai thought for a while, and then suddenly something came to her mind, and she said to the students in class around her, Be careful. Flint is a variant of quartz, which can produce sparks when struck with iron, so it was also used as a tool for making fire by ancient people. Babe Wanbai stared at the black and gray sand dune. You all try to be careful. The flowing flint sand can easily generate high heat, and high heat. Everyone followed her gaze and looked at the huge sand dune full of quicksand accumulation, and a word emerged in their minds: dust explosion. Not only them, but also the audience's little professional knowledge gathered together, and various dangerous situations emerged in their minds. What's wrong with that student? How can he do such a dangerous thing? This is too vicious. With Qin Ren's perception, he could of course hear these words, but he just rolled his eyes. If those giant robots attack someone, they can kill them directly. Why don't you say that giant robots are dangerous, but dust explosions are dangerous? What's more, it's very simple to solve the situation. Bonesofts from Class B can use his quirk to soften the ground and sink the sand, or wet the sand with water. Anyway, there are many ways. He can think of more than 10 ways to clear the sand dunes and avoid explosions. Moreover, although flint sand is easy to generate high heat due to friction, the main characteristic of flint is that it is hard and can produce sharp fractures after being broken. It was first favored by primitive people in the Stone Age. Most stone tools were made by striking flint. Flint will produce sparks when struck, but it is difficult unless it is struck with metal such as iron. That is the early flint. Flint guns also used triggers to strike flint to ignite gunpowder, but he didn't pull out much flint from the ground. That large piece of flint sand only looked scary. It couldn't burn people to death and couldn't reach the high temperature that could cause a dust explosion. Unless someone rolled over it with metal like iron for hundreds of times, nothing would happen. With his palm raised, countless quicksands sprayed out from the hand of Quartz's second hero, cutting off a medium-sized robot that was approaching. Qin Ren continued to control him to move forward, listening to the discussions of the crowd of spectators and heroes around them. Several more sensible heroes couldn't help but shake their heads and start talking. This boy is very skilled in the use of his quirks, and it seems that he has also trained his quirks to their limits. He doesn't look tired at all after producing so much sand. Indeed, by narrowing the jet nozzle and producing sand at high speed, a powerful destructive force is instantly formed. It's like a high-pressure water jet, right? The power of a high-pressure water jet with sand and a high-pressure water jet without sand is completely different. His use of his quirk is enough to make him a professional hero. But being a professional hero is not only about the use of quirks, and a hero license does not only test quirks. I'm just comparing them. However, speaking of which, a quirk that can produce quartz sand might be recruited by Mr. Izir, right? Yes, this boy's quirk can produce sand, and Izir can control sand, right? That's right, but it seems that he also has the ability to turn objects into sand. Although it can be used together, it's not particularly important. Oh, Qin Ren didn't react even after hearing the discussions of the professional heroes. Making flint sand is nothing. Shi Yingxizhong can indeed make various variants of quartz, but in terms of quantity, his own personality can't make so much sand. He can't even fill a truck, so a quicksand river is impossible. Quicksand river? This name is good, but later, he still needs to deal with those teachers and various people. The astonishment of those who know Shi Yingxizhong can't be easily brushed off. How about using "we haven't known each other for a long time, and haven't revealed our limits" as an excuse? While thinking, Qin Ren controlled the sand soldier Shi Yingxizhong to make his fingers into swords, and used another high-pressure sand sword to cut a medium-sized robot approaching into 2 pieces. However, Shi Yingxizhong can keep this identity for fun, and he can be a student whenever he wants. Speaking of which, Shi Jiayu is almost at the finish line, right? After starting, she quickly crossed the field through virtualization, and now she is almost at the finish line. Sensing Shi Jiayu's position, Qin Ren blinked and continued to control the sand soldier Shi Yingxizhong to move forward slowly. As he walked forward slowly, the first echelon, or more precisely the second echelon, looked at the huge pit in front of him with a diameter of more than 100 meters, and his face changed slightly. In the pit that was dozens of meters deep, there stood more than 100 huge stone pillars, like a stone forest, and these irregular stone pillars were connected together by strong steel cables. That's right, after the robot hell. What you are facing now is the second difficulty. Mike used a high-pitched voice to tease the emotions of the students and the audience. The fall. Once you fall, you are out immediately. If you don't want to fall and don't want to be eliminated, just crawl over. Professional heroes and ordinary people were horrified by the live broadcast images captured by the camera robots flying in the sky. This is too dangerous. A bunch of idiots. In response to their inquiries, Zack said disdainfully, "Of course we dare to do this because we have safeguards. With his strength, he can definitely catch everyone who falls." However, his words made everyone boo. TSK. How can I believe you? It makes people more suspicious when you say it. Are you guys at UA playing with the lives of students? Even if there is a recovery girl in your UA, you can't make such a dangerous thing. What measures do you have? At least let us confirm it first. If something goes wrong, you will be responsible. Do you understand? Listening to the doubts of the professional heroes and the audience, Mike also raised his hand and said in a high voice, "P.S. Every time at this time, I habitually have the idea of breaking the chapter. TSK. The teaching level of Arcadian breaking class is still very popular." Hands behind back and sigh. Chapter 228, Skilled in Pretending. Just as the audience raised doubts, a student from the ordinary class who climbed up the wire and moved forward in an upside-down manner like a pulley could not help but look down. It would not matter if he did not look, but this look almost scared him to death. It was dark below, like an endless abyss, and he could not see the bottom at all, even though it was actually only a few dozen meters deep. Because he could not see clearly, the deep pit immediately made him feel stressed, and he could not help but panic and climb forward faster. But this panic cost him his life. His sweaty palms and unbalanced movements made him accidentally lose his grip and his upper body fell down. The desire to survive also made him immediately hook his legs and hook the wire. His actions naturally made the audience scream and shout various words like "hurry up and save people." The teachers of UA, including Mike, looked helpless. They naturally had a plan to organize such a dangerous sports festival. Seeing the shouts of those audiences who deliberately led the rhythm, more and more audiences, including some professional heroes, shouted words like "hurry up and save people." Helpless, Mike had to pinch the microphone and shouted, "Save him first." The student hanging upside down stretched out his hands to grab the steel cable, trying to get his hands in touch with the steel cable again by doing sit-ups. At this moment, a rumbling sound came from the bottom of the huge pit. After hearing the strange sound, all the students stopped immediately. Is there any other trap below? Several students also cast their eyes on Todoroki Shido, who was almost on the other side, and Bakugo Katsuki, who was chasing closely. But the people in the first echelon have already run to that position. Why did they come out now? In any case, this unusual movement made them dare not move forward on the steel cable, and the student hanging upside down was also terrified. What should I do? Exclamation mark. A huge black shadow gradually rose up with tremors and sounds. What is that? Everyone saw a giant condensed by quicksand slowly stood up from the deep pit, and a blond middle-aged man with his hands behind his back stood on the giant's head. The student who was hanging upside down also turned his eyes to the place where the movement occurred. He saw a huge sandy yellow head rising slowly. Two crystal eyeballs were fixed in the eye sockets, and it seemed to be conscious, shooting a look at him. The diameter of this head was at least 7 or 8 meters long and wide, and it was full of various hardened corners, which looked extremely ferocious. Teacher Izir. During the time that Qin Ren was playing in Xinying, he might not know every student of Xinying, but every student of Xinying knew him. Qin Ren nodded lightly with a blank expression and a pretentious look. Do you want to give up? If you give up, just let go. I'm here. You won't die from the fall. It's okay if you don't die from the fall. Is there anyone who talks like this? However, when Qin Ren appeared, both the students and the audience who were watching the broadcast understood the situation. With Izir as rescuer, the situation was, at this time, on a section of the steel cable near the opposite bank. Because he paid too much attention to the movement of Qin Ren, a student relaxed his movements and fell from the steel cable. Help! He couldn't help but cry for help after falling from the steel cable. However, before he fell far, he felt something behind him and landed on something. With his heart beating violently, the student turned his head and saw that he was lying on a huge palm that was 6 or 7 meters wide. The palm was extended from the stone pillar next to him. Then, a giant sand god soldier slowly stretched out half of its body from the stone pillar and put the student in his hand on the shore. But just as he breathed a sigh of relief, he heard Qin Ren's voice, "You are eliminated." Slightly stunned, the student couldn't help but nodded and confirmed his failure. The next moment, the students and the audience saw Qin Ren, who was standing on the head of the giant sand god soldier, folded his hands on his chest and fell backwards, falling rapidly and disappearing in the dark pit. When everyone was in doubt, a snake-like dragon several hundred meters long flew out of the dark pit, flapping its huge wings and dragging its body into the sky. Then, the giant monster, which was 100 meters long, circled in the sky above the deep pit and said, "You don't need to worry about getting hurt. I'm watching you. Nothing will happen to you." His voice, which was specially amplified by the resonance of the sand, was convincing. The huge body could not fizz the camera lens of the camera drone completely. The huge pit below seemed a little small in front of the sand sky dragon that Qin Ren transformed into, and the two sand giant gods in the huge pit slowly sank into the deep pit after Qin Ren transformed into the sky dragon and flew into the sky. Two awesome desert heroes. I didn't expect to see Zul use the two moves of giant god and sky dragon at the same time. Qin Ren has been pretending to be awesome since he came to this world. In terms of momentum alone, he even surpassed All Might. His moves Obelisk's giant god and Osiris's sky dragon are also remembered by many people. Unknowingly, Qin Ren has become an idol for many people, and there was nothing wrong with Qin Ren's approach. In this hero-saturated society, heroes of all professions compete for jobs, and fame and momentum are naturally a means of promoting themselves. Other heroes cannot perform so exaggeratedly, and at most they can only say a few words of envy and jealousy. Even before arriving at the giant pit, the students could see Qin Ren's huge body floating in the air. Before arriving at the giant pit, they had a direct feeling of the hugeness of the sky dragon's body. However, they did not forget what they were doing. After a few words of discussion and sighing with envy or reverence, they continued to move forward, climbed up the steel cable, and moved to the other side. Whenever someone accidentally fell, Qin Ren would control the gravel and the stone pillar to form a giant god soldier, which would stick out its body from the stone pillar and reach out to catch the person. With his current reaction speed, even if thousands of people fell from various directions, he could catch them all without falling. Of course, he himself did not stop controlling the sand soldier Shi Yingxi. Under the gaze of the audience and students, Shi Yingxi put his hands in his pockets and stepped onto the tightrope with an indifferent look, walking upright instead of crawling like the others. This bold move of Shi Yingxi also made the audience exclaim. The Qin people also happily harvested the momentum value brought by Shi Yingxi. Chapter 229. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Walking alone in the back, with no one to argue with, it seemed quite boring. Qin Ren's sight fell on the front, the group of people who had come to the other side of the shore, Todoroki Shito and Bakugo Katsuki, just rush over. The next moment, Mike and the other heroes couldn't help but widen their eyes. He's running on the tightrope, he's actually running. The students in front of Quartz Section couldn't help but turn their heads to look back, but this sight made them swallow their saliva. That Quartz Section was actually running fast on the tightrope. Is he so brave? He's not afraid of falling off. With Qin Ren's control, let alone controlling a sand soldier to walk on the tightrope, even if he let the sand soldier do it strongman walking in the air, there would be no problem. There would be no problem with peerless fighting skills such as splits in the air. However, he didn't do any fancy moves, just slightly increased the speed. While he was swiftly passing through the second obstacle area, Todoroki and the other members of the first team also arrived at the third obstacle area a few hundred meters away from the end of the second obstacle area. Well, the first team has reached the final checkpoint. Mike looked at Todoroki on the broadcast screen and said in a high-pitched voice, "The final checkpoint has also been revealed. That is, the minefield." In front of Todoroki was a rectangular area of several hundred meters long, covered with countless conspicuous dots. Each dot was 20 to 30 centimeters wide, and seemed to be deliberately exposed. Mike naturally smiled. Although the minefield is large, as long as you observe carefully, you can find the location of the mines. Use your eyes and feet to the fullest. This is a test of mobility and carefulness. Glancing at the audience, as if knowing what this group of idiots was going to say about the dangers of mines, Mike shouted, "By the way, this type of mine is for competition only. It has little power, and the shell is made of plastic, so there will be no shrapnel damage, but the sound and explosion effect are absolutely shocking." Looking at the dense dots in front of him, Todoroki's face turned black, but he did not delay any further. He observed the location of the mines, walked forward, and complained, "The obstacles that are more disadvantageous to those who run in the front, they actually played such a trick." However, at this moment, three shadows quickly caught up. Bakugo Katsuki, who also flew all the way here using the explosion quirk. Takuya, who flew all the way here using the parasitic shadow in a floating posture. Midoriya Izuku, who fell behind a lot in the second level, but caught up all the way using the OFA 5% full coverage to exceed Rikugo and Takuya. Half of the bastard, Bakugo, who kept secreting sweat from his palms to launch explosions and continuously propel his body to fly, always had foul mouths. Dark Shadow, hurry up, okay. While talking and answering with the parasitic shadow, Qin Ren, who was floating faster and combined with the parasitic shadow like a giant crow, chased after Bakugo. "I won't lose." With green arcs in his eyes, Izuku Midoriya's heart once again echoed All Might's words, "Go tell the world that you have appeared out of nowhere." Looking at the four people chasing quickly, Todoroki Shido no longer hesitated. "Although I will open the way for the back, there is no time to delay." Without hesitation, Todoroki Shido stopped resting and continued to run. Starting from the soles of his feet, he created a continuous ice surface towards the front, freezing the competitive mines below solid, so that they would not be triggered even if he stepped on them. And just as the four people were chasing, they heard a rustling sound from behind. The parasitic shadows were mainly responsible for the movement, so Chang'an had time to look back. He saw that the person who had caused Mike to exclaim several times, "Quartz Tsuo," was chasing them at an extremely fast speed. This way of moving, boom, the Quartz Tsuo stood expressionlessly with his hands in his pockets, and quicksand kept pouring out from his feet, pushing his body forward like a wave. This way of moving was similar to the one that Todoroki Shido had used before, which was to create a continuous layer of ice under his feet and push forward. When he turned his head and looked back, Izuku Midoriya, who had used OFA to fully cover and strengthen his body, surpassed him at a speed close to that of Ida, and was about to surpass Bakugo Katsuki in front. Although Chang'an did not react much to Midoriya surpassing him, Bakugo Katsuki certainly would not have no reaction. When he noticed that Midoriya was catching up, his face showed twisted anger. "Izuku, I will never allow you to run ahead of me." Aiming at the gap between the mines, he landed with both feet. At the same time, he raised his left hand and fired a blast towards the back. This sudden attack, Midoriya Izuku, whose body functions were strengthened through OFA, also reacted in time, aimed at another open space, and suddenly changed direction, flashing to the left, avoiding the explosion of Bakugo's left hand. However, during the 2 weeks of training, Bakugo was familiar with Midoriya's growth, and his right hand swung out the next moment after his left hand blasted out. The sweat in his palm exploded, and the shockwave generated by the terrifying explosion hit Midoriya directly. Boom! With a loud bang, Midoriya's body lost balance in the shockwave and stepped on a landmine. Boom! Boom! Both Midoriya and Todoroki Shido were blown away. Bakugo's actions were not just to attack Midoriya. Even though he was irrationally and endlessly angry at Midoriya, his mind was still clear. He deliberately chose to attack Midoriya and Shido Todoroki when they were on the same line. His left-hand attack was to force Midoriya into position, and his right-hand attack was his real plan. "The first place is mine." Bakugo's hands burst out with explosive shocks again, pushing his body to fly forward quickly. 200 meters ahead was another gate of the open-air stadium. More than 200 meters away. Only more than 200 meters away. As long as he passed through the gate, he could complete the obstacle race and take the first place. But, just when he was about to pass through the gate, he found that at the exit of the gate, at the finish line, a slender figure emerged from the air, with a long snake tail swinging behind it. Half of its body passed through the gate, then turned its head and gave him a smile full of malicious taste. "Finally here, I've been waiting for you for a long time." The first place that was about to be taken away was snatched away by someone, and the other party's malicious ridicule made this foul-mouthed nickname genius shout angrily, "Snake tail!" The sweat in his palms exploded faster, making him speed up again. However, Snake Jiayu had already slowly walked out of the gate. "Snake tail, this name is not nice at all." At this time, Mike's voice also rang out. First-year competition area of UAI. Obstacle race. The first person to return to the competition venue is Higawara Snake Jiayu. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 230 The Conspiracy of the Enemy Alliance. What? When did that girl? I don't know. That quirk. Snake, is it camouflage? Just like that octopus hero Hikaman, and the lizard hero who got into trouble some time ago. In this heroic society, there are many animal-like quirks among the alien quirks. Animal-like quirks can allow the holder of the quirk to develop similar abilities, and camouflage is not rare. Fish, snakes, frogs, octopuses, squids, lizards, snails, mantises, crabs and other animal-like alien quirks can all develop camouflage quirks. Everyone was just surprised by the sudden disappearance and reappearance of Snake Jiayu. In fact, they were just surprised that Snake Jiayu suddenly appeared near the finish line. If it weren't for this reason, she wouldn't even receive much attention. After Snake Jiayu and Bakugo and others appeared in the center of the open-air stadium, one name after another was logged in on the big screen in the stadium. First place, Higashihara Snake Jiayu. Second place, Bakugo Katsuki. Third place, Midoriya Izuku. Fourth place, Todoroki Shito. Fifth place, Chang'an Ta Yin. Sixth place, Quartz 6. Damn it, Bakugo Katsuki, whose arm was in severe pain due to excessive use of his quirk, looked at the ranking column on the big screen, stood there with a gloomy face, cursed in a low voice, and then turned to look at Shejiu. Shejiu, whose face was full of mischievous expression, noticed his gaze and blew him a kiss frivolously. "How about it? Do you want to continue playing with me, your big sister, for a while?" Bakugo Katsuki naturally did not think that Shejiu's actions were a tease. This was a complete provocation and mockery to him, and his face became more gloomy. At this time, Qin Ren controlled Quartz 6 and walked to Shejiu's side. Shejiu naturally knew that this heartless Quartz 6 was a toy made by her father. Although she didn't know why her father did this, she naturally wouldn't say anything. And after everyone returned to the open-air stadium, the Sky Dragon transformed by Qin Ren also flew above the open-air stadium, and then the body of the Sky Dragon collapsed, and countless quicksand flew out of the stadium, and some of the quicksand rolled to the ground and landed next to Zabu, who was standing on the rostrum. This series of showmanship made the audience discuss in amazement. But soon, after a group of students arrived and rested for a while, Zabu lazily took out his lighter, lit a cigarette, and muttered in a gangster-like tone, "So, that's it. The first competition is over." There are a total of 45 people who passed the preliminaries. While watching the big screen, Zabu's hands were not quiet. The lid of the lighter opened and closed, and lit it from time to time. Next is the second project. Wait a minute, where is the remote control? Wait a minute. As if remembering something, Zabu's hands touched his body, but he didn't touch the remote control. Oh no, I lost it when I was going to the toilet just now. Zabu's series of actions shocked everyone, whether they were the audience or the students. Even the students in Class B couldn't help but cover their faces. Forget it. If it's gone, it's gone. Zabu, who couldn't find the remote control but found the rule manual, turned around, holding the rule manual, and read out in a gangster-like tone, "The second event is a horse battle. 1 to 3 people form a horse, one person sits on the horse, and grabs other people's headscarves. Each of you will have points, but there is only one headscarf per team, and it must be worn above the rider's neck. This is the total score of your team. If it is snatched away, you will lose points. The contestants need to snatch the headscarves before the time is up. It is also an elimination system. The final score will be used to determine the winner and enter the final round." As Zabu read out loud, everyone began to discuss, before the end time, can we give up the headscarf first to avoid attacks, and then snatch it before the end? But we may not be able to snatch it. It's a free-for-all mode. And if it's before the end time, Teacher Zabu, will we be eliminated if we fall off our horses or our formation is destroyed? What if our headscarves are snatched away? Kento Kazuka raised his hand and asked Zabu. Hearing her question, Zabu flipped through the small notebook in his hand. No, you will be eliminated only when the time is up. You will not be eliminated if the team collapses, and the same applies if your headscarf is taken away. As long as you get enough points before the end, it will be fine. By the way, you cannot use personality attacks for the purpose of destroying the warhorse formation, or you will be given a red card. After flipping through the small notebook, Zabu continued, "By the way, your scores will be given according to your ranking." As he spoke, the teacher who controlled the computer in the background converted the screen to a conversion table of rankings and scores. The score for the first place is 5 points for the 45th place, 10 points for the 44th place, and 5 points for each time. It was fine until the second place, but the score for the first place 10 million. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 zeros, 10 million? Everyone's eyes were focused on Shejiu. Facing everyone's gaze, Shejiu just blinked, and then his lower body suddenly turned into a snake, and his thick and long snake tail squirmed twice, and then his whole body disappeared. When she appeared again, she was next to Ishitsuyoshi. Qin Ren couldn't help but raise his eyebrows and glanced at her. While everyone was happily participating in the sports festival, in a bar somewhere, Shigaraki Tamura, with a sallow face, looked at the broadcast on the TV hanging on the wall with a gloomy face, and clenched the cup in his right hand. As his 5 fingers closed, the cup collapsed and shattered, turning into a handful of flying ash and dissipating. Teacher, it was the same last time, and it's the same this time. It's completely useless. Inside the bar, next to Kurogiri, the old-fashioned box-type TV lit up, and a magnetic and gentle middle-aged male voice sounded. Toraku, the last time we invaded USJ, although the villain alliance made a name for itself, it didn't pose enough of a threat. We didn't even see All Might. We don't know where the police took the super regeneration and shock-absorbing quirk brainless. Kurogiri nodded and echoed. Based on our previous actions, no one would take the initiative to join the villain alliance. Hearing what the two said, Shigaraki Toraku's sallow face showed a trace of anger, and he slapped the bar with his palm. With the activation of his quirk, the entire bar began to collapse and dissipate rapidly, scattering into ashes. Teacher, what should we do then? How can we kill All Might? As long as All Might is killed, as long as the symbol of peace is killed, the order of this hypocritical heroic society will be destroyed. The League of Villains is too weak now, and they want to destroy the order of the hero society. Although the best way is to kill All Might, there is another way. Kurogiri. Hearing his name, Kurogiri nodded. I have had some contact with the hero killer before, and I have contacted him. He can bring us considerable help. At the same time, Kurogiri said to himself in his heart that in order to allow Shigaraki to grow, brute force alone is useless. If you want to overthrow this heroic society, you need more faith. Don't worry, although I can't compare to the super regenerating brainless, I still have more than 30 brainless available. A voice came from the big head TV. As long as we seize the opportunity, even if we want to kill All Might, it can be done. If I'm not mistaken, All Might's stuff has been handed over to someone else. All Might, there is only a spark left. Hurry up. Shigaraki listened to Kuroki's words, his expression still angry with a little madness. Kill All Might, and, 4 fingers touched his chest, touching the wound that had been completely repaired, and that damn Izir. Chapter 231 Horseback Battle. Prepare for the game. Start with Zabu's lazy command. The second game officially began. A total of 45 people formed 15 groups, and some groups had only 3 or even 2 people. For example, the 2-person group composed of Shiying Qin and Shejiu controlled by Qin Ren. As for the riding method, of course it would not be the sand soldier riding on Shejiu, but the Qin people controlled the sand soldier and held Shejiu in a princess hug. Shejiu's left hand went around the back of the sand soldier's neck and held it with his right hand. Princess hug, or dead hug. The difference between a princess hug and a dead hug is that dead people don't put their hands around their necks. In fact, Shiying Qin's figure is not tall. For men, they basically won't grow anymore at the age of 15. This figure of less than 1.8 meters is indeed short in modern society. He is also not strong, but he can still hold the human-shaped Shejiu. After all, the human-shaped Shejiu is just a girl of about 1.6 meters. However, after the transformation, the 3-headed snake is more than 50 meters long, but the weight is less than 100 tons, so it is no problem at all. When the start was announced, almost all teams rushed towards the 2 of them. A score of 10 million obviously means that as long as they get the score, they can win. Watching everyone rushing over, Shejiu turned her eyes to the sand soldiers. After knowing that the sand soldiers were controlled by her father, she would naturally ask for their opinions. You can do whatever you want, just control the degree yourself. Qin Ren controlled the vibration of the gravel and imitated the human voice. I am just here to play. Hearing this, a gleam of light flashed in Shejiu's eyes, and countless scales emerged from his slender legs, and at the same time twisted together to form a thick and long snake tail, like a long whip, sweeping towards the people rushing over. The snake tail was swung out, and the Bakugo group who rushed to the front was naturally the first target. Bakugo Katsuki also shouted immediately, calling on Kirishima to defend. Hedgehog head. The war horses were arranged in a triangle with 3 people, and Kirishima was the front leg of the horse in Bakugo's group. Hearing Bakugo's words, Kirishima naturally activated his quirk immediately, and his body suddenly hardened. While shouting to signal Kirishima to proceed, Bakugo also swung his right hand out, facing the thick and long snake tail, and activated his explosive quirk, Go to Hell. Boom. Accompanied by a loud bang, the strong shockwave hit the snake's tail, and she deliberately restrained her strength in order not to kill people, so the snake's tail did not carry much power at all. But the power she used was not something Bakugo could deal with in a hurry, and he could only block it by fully activating his explosive quirk. In the collision with the shockwave, the snake's tail only paused slightly before hitting Bakugo's hand. Bakugo also realized that his quirk attack didn't work the moment he launched it, but it was obvious that the time between launching the attack and realizing that the attack didn't work was not enough for him to dodge. He only had time to raise his hand slightly before he was hit. The sharp pain in his arm made Bakugo groan, and the snake's tail swept him off his warhorse. Damn it! After sweeping Bakugo off his warhorse, the snake's tail continued to sweep towards another group of people. Todoroki Shito. He immediately asked Yamami, who was his right leg, to block it. Yamami, who had been prepared to guard against attacks from others, suddenly extended a piece of metal plate from his right hand when he heard Todoroki Shito's order, blocking the left side of Todoroki Shito's body. Bang! With a dull sound, the snake's tail hit the metal plate created by Yamami, pushing the metal plate towards Todoroki Shito, and it looked like it would hit Todoroki Shito. Todoroki Shito quickly raised her left hand and pushed it towards the metal plate. Layers of ice appeared on it, forming an irregular ice shield, blocking the metal plate and herself. Because the metal plate was deformed too much, Yano's hand twisted with it, but because of this, she felt the pain and immediately broke the metal plate. The metal plate hit by the snake's tail hit the ice, and while smashing some of the ice, it pushed Todoroki's body to the left. The metal plate and ice flew towards Kendo and others in the third group. The metal plate and ice, which did not have much power, were blocked by Kendo using his giant palm quirk and thrown to the side. At the same time, someone questioned and asked, Teacher Zabu, Didn't you say that you can't launch malicious attacks that destroy the warhorse formation? Zabu, who was smoking a cigarette out of boredom, just yawned when he saw this. You can't attack the warhorse formation, but I didn't say you can't attack the rider. After hearing this, Bakugo Katsuki, who got up from the ground and used his explosive quirk to return to the three-person warhorse, showed an angry smile on his face. Hedgehog head, go over and kill that snake tail. As he shouted, the three of them continued to run towards Snake Jiu, and Kirishima took the time to complain, what Hedgehog head, your hairstyle is the same as mine. Also, what do you mean by kill? Are you going to kill Higawara? Bakugo didn't react to his complaints at all. He was repeatedly robbed of the first place by Snake Jiu and mocked in various ways. This time he was knocked off the warhorse, and he was already extremely angry. When Snake Jiu retracted his snake tail, Bakugo and the other four also came over, and Bakugo Katsuki launched his quirk at Snake Jiu without hesitation. The glycerin and acidic sweat personality inherited from her parents combined together, and the strange sweat exploded according to Bakugo's will the moment he swung his arm. The violent shockwave was like a small grenade, hitting Shijiu. Qin Ren raised his eyebrows. This didn't seem to be for the headscarf, but he didn't think such a weak attack could hurt himself or Shijiu. Seeing Bakugo launch an attack, Shijiu just chuckled, and the snake's tail swung quickly, making a bang in the air, and passed through Bakugo's palm, directly shattering the shock wave formed by the explosion, making a sharp bang, bang! Amid the bang, the snake's tail continued to move downwards and hit the ground. Boom! With a loud bang, the ground was shattered by her tail whip, and a half-meter deep gully appeared on the ground, and cracks appeared on the ground on both sides, forming a small pit. The sudden pothole caused Saruhanta, who was sitting on the horse's left leg, to lose his balance, and Bakugo Katsuki, the rider, was also shaken by Saruhanta's action. At this time, the snake's tail passed over Bakugo's head and pulled off his headscarf. Chapter 232, Can snakes hypnotize people or are they easily hypnotized? At the same time that snake pulled the turban off Bakugo's head, Todoroki Shido, who had returned to the warhorse composed of Yami Yeno, Ida and Kaminaru, also launched an attack on Qin Ren's group. Higawara, try my new trick. This is. Yami Yeno made it for me. Kaminaru held a tube-shaped object in his hand, like a gun. With the sound, Kamina's quirk was activated, and the current rushed into the tube-shaped object that looked like a gun. The strong current rushed through the electromagnetic coil, and the magnetic force generated ejected the bullet in the barrel. Gauss gun. The thing in the barrel was of course not as dangerous as a bullet, but a net. Several magnets distributed around the net flew out of the muzzle under the strong magnetic force, and opened in an instant, about to cover Qin Ren and Snake. At the same time, Todoroki Shido also held a metal rod made by Yami Yeno that looked like a ground wire. The continuous ice layer started from the point where the metal rod touched the bottom and quickly spread towards Qin Ren. Really good. Qin Ren praised in his heart, but at the moment when the two people attacked, he had already reacted. The sand soldier kicked forward with his right foot, and the quicksand surged out from the bottom of the sand soldier's feet and solidified, forming a sharp and hard quartz blade. You lack the necessary strategic vision. Then he said a line from the blue steel shadow, and the sand soldier's right foot slashed hard in the air. When he was slashing, it was just when the capture net shot by the Gauss gun in Shangming's hand came. With a sand yellow shadow passing by, the entire net was cut off by the quartz blade. At the same time, the sand soldier's left foot continued to surge out of quicksand, forming a quicksand wave, surging towards the surroundings. The speed of the quicksand surge was just a little faster than the speed of freezing by Todoroki. The ice-blue frost waves and the sand-yellow sand tide collided with each other and continued to move forward. However, the frozen quicksand was fixed, and the later quicksand pushed upwards, forcibly forming a huge wall of ice sand between the two groups. Under Qin Ren's special control, some quicksand rushed towards Bakugo and the others. The spreading frost seemed to be guided by the quicksand, freezing Kirishima, Ashido, and Sero. It's amazing. Not only did Ishijik escape, he actually used Todoroki Shido's quirk to freeze the members of Bakugo's group. Mike grabbed the microphone and shouted in a high voice. And, the next moment, the wall of ice was shattered by the swing of Snake Jayu's tail. Countless broken pieces of ice scattered around, hitting groups of riders, including Todoroki Shito and Bakugo Katsuki, who climbed onto the war horse again. Bang 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 bang, accompanied by ice blue tracks. More than 10 groups of riders were hit by the ice-containing sand and cried out in pain. Under Qin Ren's control, the sand soldiers' feet continued to spurt out quicksand, pushing the sand soldiers forward, while Snake Jayu's tail swung in the air, quickly passing over the heads of everyone around, sweeping away more than a dozen headbands. On the scoreboard, the 0 behind a long string of numbers instantly changed into various numbers. At this moment, a voice came from the side. "Are you Higawara? You are worthy of being the daughter of the hero Izir." Hearing this, Shiryu turned his head and saw a boy with purple fluffy seaweed hair appearing from the side. Shiryu chuckled, his tail swaying, and the headscarves swaying on his tail like a hula hoop. "Don't you want to grab it?" The moment Shiryu answered, the purple-haired boy showed a triumphant smile. Of course. Qin Ren, who was standing next to Zabu, stared at the purple-haired boy. Shinso is a human-made quirk, brainwashing, and can control the other party's body through language. If you respond to what he says when he uses his quirk, you will be controlled. So Shinso often activates his quirk by provoking his opponent. If he himself does not intend to brainwash, he will not enter the brainwashing state. When controlled, he will lose control of his body, but strong pain or stimulation can release the control. I remember that in the comics, he seemed to have a relationship with Aizawa Shota and learned Aizawa's move, the binding cloth. Brainwashing. This personality is indeed very useful, but it also depends on who the brainwashing target is. At the moment of replying, Shijayu felt a force trying to invade her mind and control her body. However, this force was too weak. Although she is not the real Queen Asmodeus, she can at least be called a pseudo-demon. In terms of controlling people's hearts, as a lustful demon, using charm as a means to control the target is what Queen Asmodeus is best at. Moreover, her body, the demon god's holy grail, is also soaked in a demon key that is imitated based on the Millennium Key that can open the door of the heart. A trace of pink light flashed in Shijayu's pair of snake eyes. "Little brother, you are still too young." In an instant, not only Zinkao, but also the 3 people under him, lost consciousness in an instant, and their eyes changed from dull to obsessed. The 4 looked at Shiryu with fascination. How should this be explained? Qin Ren looked at Shiryu, who had directly enchanted the 4 people, and had a headache. How should this be explained? Obviously, Shiryu's behavior is similar to Zinkao's brainwashing personality. How should it be explained to the public? There is such a thing as a snake blower in India, so is it possible for Shiryu, who has a snake-like personality, to hypnotize others? This is not right. If you want to use the snake blower as an excuse, then snakes should be more easily hypnotized. Isn't it a bit far-fetched to use the Indian snake blower to say that snakes can hypnotize people? It's hard for the public to believe it. Forget it. Use the 1,000-year-old tin staff to brainwash Zinkao and the other 4, so that they think their actions are normal. Instead of forcibly pulling a snake can hypnotize others, it's better to pretend that nothing happened. As soon as he said it, Qin Ren raised his hand, and the illusory 1,000-year-old tin staff was held in his hand. A burst of spiritual light shot towards Zinkao and the other 4. "You are not bewitched by her. Your actions are very natural." Qin Ren's words were swept into memory by the spiritual light shot out by the 1,000-year-old tin staff, and were deeply imprinted in the hearts of the 4 people. Because of the illusion of the 1,000-year-old tin staff and the spiritual light, Qin Ren's actions were not discovered. Everyone, including Zabu, only noticed that Qin Ren's palm moved slightly. The only one who noticed this was Shijayu, who was close to the 4 people. Although it was a spur of the moment, she also immediately noticed that her behavior was inappropriate, and stuck out her tongue at Qin Ren in a cute way. "Do you think being cute will work?" After putting away the 1,000-year-old tin staff, Qin Ren raised his eyebrows at her. "You will have nothing to eat in the next few days. P.S. I forgot to set the time." Speaking of which, someone suddenly ran out of the book review area to scold me. To be honest, I don't even remember who this person is, and he has never subscribed to my book anyway. Under normal circumstances, I will only ban those who have not subscribed to my books but still curse me. After all, I am not a saint and I will be unhappy if someone curses me. As for those who have subscribed to my books and complained a few words, I will not ban them. If you think about it carefully, I guess this person is the kind of person who has not subscribed but still has a bad mouth. Chapter 233 1v1 Battle. In the end, Snake, who was in poor condition due to Qin Ren's hunger strike, did not make any amazing moves in the horse-riding battle. After repelling several attacks from Bakugo Katsuki and Todoroki Shido, the two teams did not continue to attack Qin Ren's team, but instead attacked other teams. The winning team is the top 5 teams. First place, Ishijio, Higashihara Snake. Second place, Bakugo Katsuki, Kirishima Jiro, Sero Fonta, Ashido Mina. Third place, Midoriya Izuku, Tokigami Sakio Kako, Aoyama Uaya. Fourth place, Todoroki Shido, Ida Tenya, Yamamo, Kamimura Denki. Fifth place, Shinsa Renshai, Tetsu, Shiozaki Tsukaza. Black Domination. After the names of the 5 teams were displayed on the big screen, Mike's voice rang out. The final event of the sports festival will be held by the above 5 groups, a total of 18 students. The final time is set in the afternoon, and this hour is a break time. Listening to Mike's noisy shouting, Qin Ren rubbed his shoulders and left the place. Using sand to disguise as quartz stitch and Snake Jayu's actions can also gain momentum points. Izil, how about going to have lunch together? When he was about to leave, Zabu came over with a smile. Qin Ren just glanced at him expressionlessly. You'd eat? At first, Zabu asked him to have lunch together, and he agreed a few times. But every time, this guy ate a lot and asked him to pay. In other words, this guy just found various excuses to eat and drink for free. Although the money in this world will be useless after he leaves, it doesn't matter how he spends it, but he is a little unhappy that Zabu always eats and drinks for free. Oh, by the way, this can be done. Zabu, please buy me 20 servings of takoyaki or something like that, and the rest of the money will be used as errand fees. Qin Ren fumbled in his trouser pocket and took out a 10,000 yen bill. Takoyaki is about 300 to 500 yen per serving, and 20 servings is 6,000 to 10,000 yen. By the way, the unit is yen. It depends on how Zabu does it. After hearing what Qin Ren said, Zabu looked at the money in his hand and was a little stunned. 20 servings of takoyaki? Can you finish them? Of course. Qin Ren spread his hands and shrugged. It's a lot of exercise. 20 servings of takoyaki. Zabu turned around, his face full of hesitation. After all, each person usually spends 300–800 yen per meal, and one serving of takoyaki, 7 or 8 octopus balls, is about 1/3 of a meal. 20 servings are enough for 6 or 7 people. When Zabu was about to rush to the food stand with the money in his hand, he heard Qin behind him say, by the way, order one of each flavor. If the flavors are not enough, order ketchup. I wonder if takoyaki has ketchup? There are takoyaki shops everywhere in China, so they certainly have ketchup, but who knows about Japan? Can you really eat it? Zabu, who still couldn't believe it, turned around and asked, do you want to bet? Qin raised his eyebrows. If I can eat it, will you buy me another 20 servings? No bet. Zabu shook his head decisively and turned away. You really have a big appetite, Izil? At this time, a voice came from behind him. A skinny rib spirit. No, All Might came from the corner. The more you exercise, the more you consume. Qin attributed the reason for your large appetite to exercise consumption, although in fact, he didn't need to eat much. That's right, he didn't need to eat much at all. He performed various actions and consumed mana, not physical strength. If this body was not the body of Higawara Shachin, and he only used the Millennium Key to materialize his will, he would not even need to eat. Being healthy is good. A trace of envy appeared on All Might's skinny face. He touched his stomach and said, my stomach has been removed. I can only eat things that are easily digestible. Listening to All Might's words, Qin Ren also remembered that All Might's stomach was damaged in the battle with a foe. The whole stomach was necrotic and he had to remove the stomach. It's like a patient with gastric cancer. In some serious cases, the whole stomach will be removed, and the duodenum and esophagus below will be connected. After that, the intestine will swell to form something similar to a stomach, but it is not a real stomach. The digestive ability is greatly reduced. You should choose something that is very easy to digest. You must not eat anything that is difficult to digest. Although you can live for a long time, it is also a miserable situation that you can't eat this or that. Afterwards, Qin Ren chatted with All Might for a while, and after Zabu handed him 20 servings of takoyaki and said the price of 500 yuan per serving in a resentful tone, he said goodbye to All Might and went to another place to finish his takoyaki. After the audience returned to the auditorium and watched the students perform an entertainment project, the final project began. Qin Ren came to the other side of the referee's seat and sat in another referee's seat opposite Zabu. The next final project was a 1v1 battle to determine the final winner, and his and Zabu's job was not only to make a judgment, but also to stop the players in case of danger during the duel. And the first battle. Hey guy, are you ready? Mike, who heated up the atmosphere with a high-pitched tone, listened to the cheers from the audience and continued, "Now, it's the final event that you are most looking forward to. A real combat showdown. The mechanism of the game is a 1v1 elimination match. The only thing you can rely on is your own strength. Even if you are not a hero, you may encounter situations in life. Now, use your will, skills, body as well as wisdom and knowledge to the limit. Sprint upward, plus ultra. Unremitting progress, never ending, plus ultra." Hearing this familiar slogan, the audience cheered. Then, next, who are the players of the first game? The first player, the player who won the first place in the first and second events. Although he likes to play pranks, he is very powerful. In the past few months, all the teachers, except Qin Ren, have been teased and joked by Shejiu in various ways, and Mike is naturally one of them. Mike's introduction to Shejiu was also with a smile, the little devil of the hero department. Higawara Snake Jiayu walked out of the passage slowly, and a smile appeared on her face as she listened to Mike's introduction to her. Qin Ren, who knew Snake Jiayu well, couldn't help but mourn for Mike for 2 seconds in his heart. Mike, he would definitely be beaten badly by her later. Mike, who suddenly shuddered for some reason, looked around twice, and then continued, "Her opponent is, she can't transform even with a belt. Aoyama Uaya, who is also in the hero department." Under the introduction of Mike, who was familiar with the Kamen Rider meme, the coquettish Aoyama Uaya walked onto the battle stage, with his hands behind his head. The coquettish Aoyama Uaya swept his eyes over the countless audiences and the audience. "I am really shining." But at this time, he saw the tongue of Snake Jiayu opposite him. After licking his lips half a circle, swaying up and down in the air, a chill of being stared at by a venomous snake made him tremble all over. Chapter 234, Higawara Snake vs. Aoyama Yuga. The battle between Aoyama Uaya and Higawara Snake also caused everyone to discuss. "Midoriya, who do you think has a better chance of winning in the battle between Aoyama and Higawara?" Ida asked Midoriya beside him. During this period of time, the students in class have naturally seen who is better in various situations, such as battle analysis and situation judgment. The three most outstanding people in this regard are Midoriya Izuku, Yamamel and Frog Fukimiya. As for Bakugo Katsuki, although he also performed well in these aspects, his personality also destined that most people would not seek his advice. Not to mention Higawara Snake, that evil personality. Although he has a good relationship with everyone, he usually goes alone, and now he is fighting on the field, so there is no way to ask. Higawara-san's personality is similar to Frog Fuki-san. She can basically do everything that a snake can do. Her fighting method is basically through her tail, like a whip, attacking, with great power, and the destructive power is almost the same as my personality. Yamamo next to him nodded. This phenomenon is called the whip effect. The principle is that when the whip is swung, the total kinetic energy remains unchanged, but the moving part becomes less and less, resulting in an increasing speed. The whip can be regarded as a rope, and the rope can be a carrier of waves. When the whip is swung, a waveform is generated. The whip is very long, and the part where the hand is holding is thick and has a large mass, and the end is thin and has a small mass. This means that if a wave wants to propagate from the hand to the other end without changing its energy, there must be other variables to maintain energy conservation. That variable is the frequency of the waveform, or for this kind of dynamic waveform, its speed. If the force is strong enough, the whip tip can break the sound barrier and reach the speed of sound, or even Mach 2. This can be achieved with the strength used by ordinary people. This is mainly due to the length of the whip and the mass difference between the handle and the whip tip. In terms of attack power and destructive power, Higawara is among the top few in Class A, and Higawara can also achieve invisibility like Hagakure and Frog Buki. Kamimura leaned forward and leaned on the back of Ida's chair and said aloud, "To be precise, it's camouflage, Kaminari-chan." Frog Fuki-miyu corrected. "So, first of all, what Aoyama has to face is Hinagawa's camouflage, and then the snake-like, extremely fast speed and destructive power?" Ashido Mina clenched her fist and then stretched out 3 fingers. "There's also venom." Ashido Mi Frog stretched out her hand and pried open her 4th finger. Although Hinawara has never used it, she said she can release venom directly, but Hinawara's venom will take a long time to recover, right? And the venom is too. Ashido-sana touched the thing on her head that looked like ant antennae. "I can adjust the concentration of acid. Can Hinawara also adjust the strength of the venom? But it probably won't be used." Mia Frog tapped her lips. "I can also secrete venom, but it's only to the extent of paralyzing people. Hinawara's venom can really kill people. Usually, she pays attention to her strength when she moves, and basically just uses her tail to wrap around people. She has never used venom, not even in the characteristic training, and she probably won't use it this time." Qin Ren's usual requirement that Shejiu must not kill people or cause trouble, or at least not let others see it, has become pay attention to strength in the eyes of everyone in Class A. King Shan's laser has become much stronger in the past 2 weeks of training, and can be continuously released for a longer time. "Let's start." When everyone wanted to continue discussing, the battle between King Shanuya and Shejiu began. "Strike first to gain the upper hand." King Shanuya put his hands behind his head, and a blue laser shot out from the belt on his abdomen. The laser that could easily penetrate metal through high-temperature ablation was reduced a lot of its power under his control, and it would only cause mild burns when it hit the skin. At the strongest power, just looking at the laser, rather than being hit by the laser, will cause eye burns. The weakened laser, under the operation of King Shanuya turning his body, drew a fan-shaped attack area from left to right. No one can avoid such a sweep. However, King Shanuya's confidence turned into astonishment when the bright blue laser passed in front, expanding a fan-shaped area, leaving a narrow mark on the stadium wall below the audience seats. "Where did Higawara Shejiu go?" Higawara Snake suddenly disappeared. "Where did she go?" Mike shouted competently with the microphone, attracting the audience's attention and looking for Snake everywhere on the field. Professional heroes and audiences with various scouting personalities searched for Snake on the 100 by 50 rectangular field. Some people even focused their attention on the ground, trying to find Snake's movement trajectory through the changes in the dust on the ground. And King Shanuya was naturally looking for it. He twisted his body and turned around in a circle. Intermittent blue lasers shot out from the belt on his abdomen. The side effect of continuous shooting for 3 seconds would cause stomach pain. In the past 2 weeks of training, the hellish training of continuing to shoot lasers even if the stomach hurts has been extended to 4 seconds. However, his body turned around and he didn't find Snake. At this moment, he felt a chill on his neck. The cold touch extended from the neck to the back, then to the body and legs. "Aoyama, do you still want to continue fighting?" At some point, Shejiu appeared behind him and wrapped his body with her thick and long snake tail. The thin and long tongue, like the tongue of a poisonous snake, swayed up and down beside his cheek twice, then retracted and spit out again. "Give up, I give up." Aoyama Elegant did not dare to continue to shine, and quickly gave up. He had seen the scene where Higawara wrapped her snake tail around the stone pillar and easily crushed it. If that kind of power fell on him, His body would either turn into a dough twist or into meat scraps. In the audience, Izuku Midoriya frowned, as if he thought of something. I know, Higawara-san is circling in the direction of Aoyama's laser. While avoiding the laser, he is still approaching the center. It's like a spiral. Ashido Mina next to him tapped his palm. It is also possible that he didn't circle at all, but just lay down and crawled towards Aoyama. Hakumen next to him also said another possibility. That's right, although King Shan's laser has a wide range, its height basically does not change. Jumping up or lying down to hide is feasible. Chang'an touched his chin and nodded. However, no matter what, this game, swish. Zabu whistled and waved the hand holding the flag downward. King Shanuya, admit defeat. The winner is Higawara Snake. Qin Ren smiled in his heart. 32 neither crawled forward nor jumped up, nor did he make any circling movements. Instead, he became virtual at the moment of the announcement of the start. Before King Shanuya's laser was fired, he had already arrived behind King Shanuya, and then with a wicked smile on his face, he circled with him. Chapter 235, Chang'an Ta-Yun vs. Hong Jiao Dong. We've kept you waiting. Next, the second fight. It's between these two. Mike swung the microphone in the studio in an exaggerated manner. Hero Division. Todoroki Shito. He showed great strength in both projects. It should be said that the strength of the students who were recommended for admission is indeed not to be underestimated. Todoroki Shito also slowly walked onto the battle stage, but his face seemed a little gloomy. The other one, an attacker and a defender. A dark warrior who controls the shadow. Hero Division. Tomoya Steppen, who had a crow head, also walked onto the battle stage and stood on both sides with Tomoya Shito. The second battle was between Tomoya Steppen and Tomoya Shito. Qin Ren glanced at Shijayu, who had walked to his side without knowing when, and the other party smiled back. Who do you think will win? Qin Ren asked her opinion expressionlessly. Shijayu blinked and tapped her lips with her finger. Tomoya Shito, right? Tomoya's shadow has the weakness of being afraid of light. Although Chang'an did not publicly say that Shadow is afraid of light, with Shijayu's observation ability, she easily noticed this. And after the previous game, Chang'an needs to replenish darkness in an hour. Chang'an's parasitic shadow is not infinite, but needs to be replenished. Although Todoroki Shito also needs to rest to restore the amount of personality used, it is obvious that Todoroki Shito recovers faster than Chang'an. If the flame personality is used, Todoroki Shito will definitely win. If the flame personality is not used, he may lose. However, after listening to her reasons, Qin Ren's eyes swept over the two of them, but he said, if the flame personality is not used, Todoroki Shito will lose. Qin Ren's judgment made Shijayu slightly stunned. Why? In terms of destructive power, Chang'an's destructive power at night is much stronger than Todoroki Shito, but because of the light during the day, the destructive power is much smaller, but it is also much more flexible. Qin Ren said lightly, at least Chang'an during the day is more flexible than Todoroki Shito. Of course, the premise is that Chang'an is cautious enough. More flexible? Shijayu tilted her head. She didn't notice this. After all, in her opinion, the movements of both of them were slow as hell. At this time, the battle between the two began. Dark Shadow. Okay. To strike first, Chang'an immediately summoned the parasitic shadow. Like a long snake, the parasitic shadow drilled out from Chang'an's abdomen. With both hands gathering power, it flew towards Todoroki Shito like an arrow. As long as it got close, the claws condensed by the shadow could easily tear Todoroki Shito's body apart. However, Todoroki's right hand also swung out in an instant, and a series of ice layers superimposed on each other, forming an ice wall in front. It's useless. Chang'an commanded the parasitic shadow to continue attacking. Break it. Okay. When it was only half a meter away from the forming ice wall, the parasitic shadow swung its claws vigorously, and the pitch-black claws drew a black trajectory, tearing the ice wall apart. Ice cubes splashed up and fell all around. However, at this moment, Todoroki's figure was no longer in the original position. The parasitic shadow, who was staring at the front, hesitated for a moment because the enemy disappeared, and at this time, a palm slapped from the side and slapped the parasitic shadow's body. In an instant, frost condensed. The parasitic shadow was wrapped in the rapidly spreading ice. Chang'an was a little surprised to see this situation, but he did not have any bad expression. After all, this trick is useless for the parasitic shadow. This trick is useless. As his voice rang out, the parasitic shadow trapped in the ice shrank its body, and its shape shrank a little, and it drilled out of the ice. As the price of being able to touch the entity, the parasitic shadow also has a physical body, but the parasitic shadow's body can also shrink and expand at will. Moreover, temperature cannot affect its actions. If the surrounding temperature drops rapidly, the temperature of the parasitic shadow will also drop rapidly, but it is not without organs or the like, and it will not become slow in action due to the drop in body temperature. Even if the body is torn apart, it only needs to run to a dark place to replenish some darkness, and it will be able to recover. Keep attacking. The moment it emerged, the parasitic shadow attacked again according to Chang'an's will. The sharp claws formed by the shadow shattered the ice wall again, and countless ice cubes flew. Facing the continuous attacks of the parasitic shadow, Todoroki's reaction was a bit slow. Todoroki could only dodge passively, occasionally condensing an ice wall or an ice shield on his arms to resist. Even if he condensed weapons such as ice knives, ice hammers, and ice spears in his hands during the gaps between the parasitic shadow's attacks, and launched blunt force smashing or slashing attacks at the parasitic shadow, repelling the parasitic shadow a little, his speed was still slower than that of the parasitic shadow. We must find a way. This is too passive. Then use all your strength to activate your quirk and create a large amount of ice. He knows his own business. In such a small-scale one-on-one battle, he can't beat Chang'an. Then this is the only trick he can use. While the shadow is far away from Chang'an's body, launch a large-scale attack. Taking a deep breath, he swung the irregular ice hammer in his hand to smash the claws of the parasitic shadow, and the right half of Hong Jiadong's body was suddenly filled with coldness. At the same time, on the ground, a long trail of ice quickly extended towards Chang'an's body. Not good. Dark shadow. Come back. Chang'an's eyes narrowed, and he launched a special move, Abyss Dark Body. Boom. With a loud bang, a giant iceberg with layers of ice covered more than half of the venue and extended to the audience seats. The audience and the audience seats opposite Todoroki Shido were all looking at the iceberg in horror. On the other side, Shijiu turned his gaze to Qin Ren with an expression of "Look, Todoroki won." Qin Ren shook his head. Although the recovery speed is different, Todoroki's personality is also similar to that of a blue bar mage. To create such a large iceberg, not to mention 100%, but 95% of the consumption is definitely there. Wait a minute, 95%? Qin Ren seemed to have thought of something. The power is okay, but it is based on the premise of hitting the target. Chang'an, but he can fly. Abyss Dark Body Middle. Night Banquet. Along with Chang'an's voice, a voice came from the air. Chang'an, whose body was covered with parasitic shadows like armor and had a pair of claw-like black wings on his back, quickly flew towards Todoroki Shido from the air. He clenched his right hand into a fist and punched Todoroki Shido in the abdomen. The audience exclaimed in unison. Could it be that the son of the number 2 hero Endeavor was going to lose? What a pity. It was not a pity for Todoroki Shido, but a pity for Chang'an. However, Qin Ren shook his head. Chang'an made the wrong decision. Close attack. During the day, Chang'an's advantages were only flexibility and medium and long-range attacks. Close attack. Isn't this courting death? Todoroki, who had exhausted his personality, was punched away by Chang'an. His body rolled around, fell to the ground, and retched twice. However, Chang'an's body, which was stepped on Yin, was also frozen by half of his body. With his right hand as the source, frost covered most of his body. Realizing his condition, he reluctantly opened his mouth. Trap? Todoroki Shido held his stomach and reluctantly raised his head. In his hands, he held a few smooth ice cubes, like a mirror. Of course, I know you can fly, but I didn't expect it to be so smooth. As he shook the ice mirror, the sunlight was reflected onto the huge iceberg, and then reflected again from the protruding ice cubes, shining on the entire field, causing the parasitic shadow attached to Chang'an to shrink his body. The iceberg is a huge mirror. You have made a lot of progress in these 2 weeks of training, but I have also made progress. Chang and Ta Hian also sighed resignedly. I give up. I wanted to end the battle in a handsome way, but I didn't expect it to be a trap. Zabu blew the whistle and raised the flag. Winner. Todoroki Shito. Chapter 236. I just want to be a hero. It's not my fault. With the help of Todoroki Shito and a group of heroes with high temperature or water control quirks, the iceberg that froze the venue was finally solved and was dealt with by number 13 with the Black Hulk quirk. The third match. Ashido Mina vs. Shiozaki Tsukaze. After the exaggerated battle between Todoroki Shito and Tomoya Tain in the second match, the fight between these two people is not so attractive, except for the erotic maniacs like Mineta Minoru who were panting and looking forward to Ashido Mina corroding Shiozaki Tsukaze's clothes with acid and watching the strip welfare. The audience's reaction was mediocre. Ashido Mina kept shooting out acid, but facing Shiozaki Tsukaze's fighting method of creating a large number of thorny vines extending from the ground, she was quickly caught and thrown out of the venue. Winner. Hero section. Shiozaki Tsukaze. Qin Ren looked at the scene after the two fought and thought about a question. That is Ashido Mina. Her quirk is acid, and she can create acid of different concentrations at will to attack. But why is her name Ashido Mina? According to the naming method of My Hero Academia, it should be Ashido Sour Nai, right? Is it because it sounds like Ashido yogurt, which is not nice, so it is called Ashido Sannai? It is this meaningless question that made Qin Ren entangled for a long time. While he was entangled with this matter, Mike's voice sounded again. Next. I'm sorry, the general department has not had any outstanding performance so far. Shinsu Renshai, the purple seaweed-haired boy with the same lazy temperament as Aizawa Shota, walked out of the passage. On the other side, the one who walked out was, his opponent is, Sparking Killing Boy. Hero Department. Kamimura Denki. Kamimura Denki walked onto the battle stage with a confident smile. Qin Ren listened to Mike's introduction with a strange look on his face. Although Mike spoke a string of English, in Qin Ren's ears, this sentence was, his opponent is, Sparking Killing Boy. Hero Department. Kamimura Denki. Sparking Killing Boy. What the hell is this? When Qin Ren was once again entangled in confusion because of Mike's words, Shangming Denki looked at Shinsu and rubbed his wrist. This temperament feels very much like Aizawa teacher. He should be a powerful person, right? Because of Qin Ren's brainwashing, Shinsu and the people controlled by Shinsu were all impressed with the impression that nothing happened by accident. The people in Class A and Class B didn't know anything about Shinsu's personality. Shangming Denki didn't get any hints either. In addition, during the training these days, together with Yamami, he trained various personality extensions, and made Gauss guns and various electromagnetic attacks through electromagnetism. In the first and second games, he was very active in the robot hell, but now, there is no metal here, except for his shoelaces and belt buckles, which are metal. There is nothing else to extend. Now, he needs to use only his personality. During the training these days, training various personality extensions also requires a lot of discharge, and the degree of training is still there. Seeing the calm appearance of Shinso, Kamimura became a little nervous. This guy is definitely a real talent, right? It will be easy to deal with me. Shinso's calmness made Kamimura more and more uneasy. He was so nervous that he decided to use all his strength to fight quickly. The opponent definitely didn't expect me to attack immediately, right? Catch him off guard. At this time, Zabu also waved his chess piece and shouted, "Begin!" Kamimura immediately activated his quirk, and the current generated in his body accumulated and was about to be released. At this time, Shinso's voice sounded, "Your name is Kamimura, right?" Kamimura was slightly stunned, and the current did not release, but he answered, "Yes." The moment he said this, he was stunned. Ah, what happened? Although the battle between the young boy Hong and the young boy Chinen is the most intense, you can't slack off because of this. Although he knew Shinso's quirk, as a sports festival commentator, Mike naturally couldn't just reveal it calmly. Naturally, he kept it a secret and used various words to tease the audience's emotions. Class AB, and all those who didn't know Shinsu's quirks, were also guessing what had happened. Shinsu just stared at Kamimura Denki and said, "Next." Turn around and walk out of the arena. Kamimura Denki followed Shinsu's words and walked out of the arena step by step. The professional heroes who were well informed and even had similar quirks quickly guessed what Shinsu's quirk was through his performance. A quirk that can control other people's bodies by replying. It's a bit like the quirk of Atamoto Makoto of the Shiraku Hikayakai. The professional heroes who had fought against the Shiraku Hikayakai immediately thought of this. Atamoto Makoto, the habitual fraudster. Other professional heroes who had not fought against the Shiraku Hikayakai also thought of it. The Atamoto Makoto who can control others to force them to answer questions before joining. That person was a habitual fraudster. After his fraudulent behavior was exposed, he was hunted down and eventually joined the Shiraku Hikayakai. This quirk is very useful when dealing with villain. Why don't we send an application later and bring him to our office? That's right, but he can't be exposed head-on. It's inevitable that a professional hero's quirk will be exposed. When dealing with villain, it's best to let him hide and activate his quirk from behind. Wait a minute. I want to recruit him too. Several professional heroes talked about how to use Shinsu's quirk from the topic of recruiting Shinsu to serve as his agents. At this time, someone suddenly reacted, wait a minute, it seems that Mike said just now that he is in the ordinary department? How can such a quirk be in the ordinary department? Is UA blind? Based on the quirk alone, he can definitely enter the hero department. It's the difference in actual combat experience, right? UA is still a school after all. In actual combat, it has too little experience. Wait a minute, I heard that the entrance examination uses robots as imaginary enemies. Robots, I see. Quirks cannot be activated against machines. However, assigning classes based entirely on test scores is also very unfair to many people who don't have direct physical attack quirks, right? Miss Joke, were you the same at that time? And you were not assigned to the hero department? Among the professional heroes, there was a beautiful hero wearing a mask. Hearing this, she laughed. No, when I was a student at Shiji, I was assigned to the hero department after the assessment. Only UA would be so blind. Her quirk is hilarious, which can make people laugh involuntarily and affect physical activities. In a sense, she and this Shinsu have the same quirk. Eh? Is that so? Shiji is better than UA. Shinsu was unaware of the discussion among the professional heroes. When Zabu waved the flag and loudly announced winner, General Division, Shinsu Renshai, his eyes were still fixed on Kamimura Denki. Looking at Kamimura Denki, who stood there in a daze after walking out of the field, with the current on his body disappearing, Shinsu Renshai whispered to himself, the side effect is to become an idiot. Even with such a personality, I envy him. Qin Ren also looked at Shinsu Renshai on the field. If Qin Ren was asked which character in the Hero Academy he liked the most, the first one would be All Might, the second one would be Shinsu Renshai, and then the second-year character Tomoya would be ranked third. It's not because of personality or something, but because of character and experience. Brainwash personality. Whoever sees this kind of personality will immediately think of doing bad things. Most people around Shinsu are on guard against him in various ways, and some even directly regard him as a potential criminal. Therefore, he hated his personality for a long time and did not exercise his personality at all. However, despite this upbringing that could easily turn people into evil, Zenkao still insisted on his goal of becoming a professional hero. When asked why, he replied, I just want to be a hero. You can't blame me, right? Thanks to the book friend who is Yuan for the 500 starting coins and the book friend Ho and Mayan Yang for the 100 starting coins. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 237. In the fifth match, Hantasero, who has the quirk tape, fights the Black Domination, who has the quirk black. This boy from Class B, who is also a Chunabiu and regards Takagami as his nemesis, seems to be in a bad mood because he cannot have a fated duel with Takagami. After the battle began, Hantasero immediately fired tapes to try to entangle him, but the black domination instantly dissolved into the dark side of the tape fired by Hantasaro, approached Hantasaro's body at a very fast speed, moved into Hantasaro's clothes, and before Hantasaro understood what was going on, he got out of his clothes and kicked him out of the field. Winner, Hero Division, Black Domination. The quirk black can dissolve into black and control the black objects after dissolving into it, including the shadow side of the object. Takagami's parasitic shadow can also be controlled by him after dissolving into it. And then, it was the dark horse that suddenly appeared. Ordinary class that got top rankings in the first two events and performed well. Quartz 6, and his opponent is the universal creation. She is worthy of the name of a recommended student, and her talent is obvious to everyone. Hero class, Bai Bai. As the two sides walked onto the battle stage, Bai Bai, who was standing opposite Quartz 6, took a deep breath. The opponent's personality was similar to his own, and the people in Class A and Class B also began to discuss the battle. Most people have full confidence in Bai Bai. As long as she knows the structure, she can easily make any item, whether it is a cannon, a pistol, or a grenade. She is indeed a universal creation. Ashido Mina leaned on the back of the chair next to Midoriya and asked for his opinion. Midoriya, what do you think about the fight between Hikuman and that guy? Quartz Jich. Although he can produce a large amount of quartz, unlike Teacher Izil, he cannot control the movement of sand, but he can spray sand at high speed to create a destructive force similar to that of a high-pressure water jet. Yeah, Ashido Mina nodded repeatedly. She still remembered the scene in the first obstacle race when the opponent made sand to easily cut the robot. The speed of destruction was faster than her high-concentration acid corrosion. And, although defeated, Qin Ren, who still behaved steadily, crossed his arms and closed his eyes and said, "The amount of quartz he can produce is much more than Hikuman. The speed is also faster." Itatenya raised his glasses. When Hikuman makes things, the larger the volume, the more time it takes. It's just that he can only make quartz, and at most can only make variant quartz such as flint. In a sense, this Quartz Jich is a lower-level substitute for Hikuman. He is definitely not as strong as Mr. Izil. As long as he seizes the opportunity, he should be able to win. But the problem of manufacturing speed has not been solved. You have seen it before. Quartz Jich created a lot of sand and pushed all the giant robots out of the field at once. The power is almost the same as the ice created by Hong just now. However, in the recent training, Mr. Izil and Mr. Reizawa trained her to repeatedly make some common items. Mineta Minoru said, in the 2 weeks of training, everyone's training is different because of their different personalities. During the training, Hikuman repeatedly made some items that can be used to suppress and restrain villain. Although professional heroes do not always need to face enemies, in most cases, they carry out various disaster relief activities. Disasters such as wind disasters, floods, fires, earthquakes, etc. Making various emergency equipment according to the situation is her main action. The disasters caused by villain are not particularly many, even if they encounter them. In this society saturated with heroes, although Hikuman's personality is omnipotent, compared with personalities with direct combat, there are fewer opportunities to face enemies. Before the 2 weeks of training, Yamune had positioned himself in this way. In the referee's seat, Qin Ren was also watching Yamune. To be honest, Yamune's quirk is quite buggy, and the upper limit is extremely high. Apart from other things, Yamune can definitely imitate the people in Class A to create various things. Bakugo Katsuki's explosive quirk is essentially a combination of acidified sweat and glycerin, nitroglycerin, a liquid that can explode due to vibration. It is quite simple for Yamune to create explosives. There are also Ashido Mina's strong acid, Serofanta's tape, and Minoru's super sticky sphere. Create various flammable compounds. If you want to cool, you can also make dry ice. Even if it is limited to room temperature, there are various substances that will volatilize at room temperature, which are also easy to use for cooling. I don't know what the ingredients of the midnight hypnotic gas are. Can Yamune make it? But ether is okay, right? 3.6 to 6.5% concentration of ether can cause people to fall into a coma and have an anesthetic effect. Without talking about these, It is not a problem to directly make guns, right? There are also weapons like flash bombs and smoke bombs. There are also plots about making flash bombs in the original work. In fact, Qin Ren was quite surprised. After all, it is quite easy for this kind of omnipotent creative personality to be stronger than Bakugo. But the various things made by 8 million in the original work are quite anxious. The setting is that he is a top student, but the various things he made have a sense of unskilledness. As for whether the things made by 8 million are limited by weight, although it is said to be limited by fat, a cannon was made in the obstacle race of the sports festival. In any case, such a large cannon must be heavier than a person's weight, not to mention 5 or 10 times. At least 2 or 3 times the weight of 8 million, but 8 million does not seem to have lost much fat, almost just a small circle of belly that was deliberately stored. In other words, it is definitely not a one-to-one manufacturing of mass, at least 1 to 10, a little more ruthless, make pure uranium-235 and plutonium-239, make an atomic bomb or something. The structure of an atomic bomb is not complicated. Simply put, it is divided into 2 structures. One is a container for reactants, and then the outside of the container is ordinary explosives. The detonation principle is also very simple, that is, the shock wave generated by conventional explosives is used to cause the reactants of another device to squeeze and expand, and finally a chain reaction occurs, and the atomic bomb is detonated. The structure is very simple. If the purity of the reactants is not enough, the atomic bomb cannot explode. But what can 8 million Bei do? And Qin Ren and Aizawa Shoda have been training her for this period of time to make various weapons that can suppress the enemy. Flash bombs, smoke bombs. P.S. Creating this kind of ability setting is actually quite common, not because it is weak, but because it requires brains, and because the upper limit is too high. It is actually very difficult to write. If you are not careful, you will be invincible. About 10 years ago, there were a lot of fan fictions, such as Naruto, Pirates, Death God, Fairy Tail, and various universal creations. The Hero Academy created the character 8 million Bei, and in order not to steal the limelight, various restrictions were imposed. The various things I wrote in this chapter, except for the nuclear bomb, which most people may not know and cannot use even if they know it. The others are all things that most people can think of. 8 million is set as a super academic master, so it is impossible for him not to think of it, right? It is the best choice to simply not create this character. Chapter 238 Ammunition Expert 8 million. Facing the Qin people, the specially trained Babai Bei had already prepared a countermeasure, although this countermeasure was originally used to deal with Todoroki Shito and Bakugo. Fuse, aluminum shell, magnesium powder, aluminum powder, sodium nitrate. At the moment when Zabu shouted start, the object that had been constructed in Babai Bei's mind was produced by consuming fat, and was thrown out of her hand and flew towards the quartz section controlled by the Qin people. After throwing it out, a round pull ring was hooked in her hand. It was something shaped like a Russian nesting doll. Since it does not need to be stored for a long time, it can be simplified in many places. And these simplifications were naturally not simplified on the spot, but she did it through repeated experiments within 2 weeks. The originally complex structure was achieved during this period of training. Moreover, Teacher Rizel also suggested in order to avoid the opponent's reaction due to the appearance, you need to disguise the appearance. Any appearance is fine, whether it is shoes, socks, gloves, water cups, any inconspicuous appearance that will not make people think of the original object. She was also fully prepared. After seeing the object falling, Quartz Tsuyo took a step back and showed a vigilant look, except for the studio-created Aizawa Shoda, who turned his head immediately. Almost all the audience present looked at the venue intently, trying to see clearly what it was. Then, they were hit. The moment the Russian doll landed, the Russian doll shell cracked, and a dazzling strong light suddenly burst out, causing all those who were watching the flash bomb to have their eyes hurt. What is it? Flash bomb? It's actually a flash bomb? And the 8 million Bei, who had already calculated the time, also closed his eyes before the flash bomb lit up, and tilted his head slightly. A mask covering the entire face was created on his face. The lenses on the mask were pitch black, like sunglasses. This is still a simplified version of the flash bomb. Nowadays, flash bombs are basically not just a single flash bomb, but are combined with stun bombs that can release strong noises, which can release both strong light and strong noises. It can make people dizzy for at least 5–10 seconds before they can return to normal. The same is true for flash grenades. If you look directly at them, even if you wear sunglasses, your eyes will be flashed. Not only do you have to wear sunglasses and close your eyes, you also have to turn your head away. However, although stun grenades are non-lethal weapons, they are also very powerful. If they are released within a short distance, they can easily affect you. The power of stun grenades cannot be protected by earplugs at all, so Biomiwa did not add any materials for stun grenades. However, magnesium, aluminum, sodium nitrate, barium nitrate. When she opened her eyes again, an object with the appearance of a Russian nesting doll appeared in her hand again. Without any hesitation, she threw the object in her hand at Quartz Sixn again. While throwing it, she also looked at Quartz Sixn, who was rubbing his eyes with both hands and retreating. This time, it's tear gas. When this sentence appeared in her mind, Biomiwa used force on the soles of her feet and immediately rushed towards the other party, and a gray cloth belt appeared on her other hand, with a heavy object hanging at the front end of the cloth belt, an object made by imitating the bondage cloth of Miss Arazawa. With extremely strong toughness, a hint of fighting spirit appeared in her eyes. After Rizal and teacher Aizawa gave her advice, she also practiced repeatedly. She has practiced this set of manufacturing processes many times. And, grab the cloth belt with your right hand and throw it towards Quartz Sixn with force. To be precise, it was swung out, like a meteor hammer, from behind to the front in a semicircle, and swung out. The round weight at the front of the cloth belt, together with the cloth belt, touched Quartz Sixn's body, and tied Quartz Sixn's body like a rope. Quartz Sixn's body was suddenly touched, and Quartz Sixn had some reactions like a normal person. At this time, a strong light burst out again from the Russian nesting doll under Quartz Sixn's feet. However, what was released was a stream of white smoke. When magnesium burns, it will release a lot of heat and white light, causing sodium nitrate to decompose. The oxygen produced will further promote the combustion of magnesium and aluminum. In addition, tear gas bombs contain volatile liquid bromine, which can irritate sensitive parts of the human body, the mucous membranes of organs such as the eyes and nose, causing people to cry. Some tear gas bombs are also equipped with ochlorobenzylnitrol, which causes a lot of tears, violent coughing, and sneezing, which is unbearable and can lead to death in severe cases. Because of the danger of the last ochlorobenzylnitrol, she naturally did not produce much. The white smoke that suddenly dispersed instantly enveloped the body of Quartz Sixn. Babai-wan, who had already taken protection and made a gas mask, completely ignored the tear gas bombs, grabbed the binding cloth with both hands, and continued to rush forward, ready to throw Quartz Sixn out of the field. But Qin Ren, who was standing on the referee's seat, shook his head slightly in his heart. Although he was reluctant to hit Babai-wan's confidence, he did not want Quartz Sixn to lose, although he was just playing around with the identity of Shi Ying-sijong. Following Qin Ren's will, countless quicksand surged in the body of Shi Ying-sijong, and condensed into a huge white quartz plate, directly pressing down the binding cloth that bound Shi Ying-sijong. Then, countless quartz sands drilled into his body from the ground and poured out of his body. It looked like it was being produced from his body in an endless stream. A huge amount of quicksand spread around like a flood. Not good. Although she had seen this trick in the robot, Babai-wan did not have a good enough countermeasure. We can only try. When the quicksand like a flood came to Babai-wan, a Russian nesting doll-shaped grenade appeared in her hand. Pulling the ring, Babai-wan threw the grenade in his hand at Shi Ying-sijong. Seeing this situation, Qin Ren could not help but be stunned. It's not because he's afraid of grenades. With his current defense strength, even if he uses grenades at zero distance, he can't break through the defense. Not to mention that it's not him standing on the field, but a sand soldier. It's not because Babai-wan doesn't dare to make this thing, Babe Wanbai has made cannons and ammunition before, so making grenades is not that dangerous in comparison. He was stunned because, if I use quicksand to push the grenade back to you, you're done. Little girl. Qin Ren didn't dismantle the grenade directly, but pressed the grenade under the ground. With a dull loud noise, countless quartz sand splashed up, and Babe Wanbai was also pushed out of the field by the quicksand. Half of his body was buried in the sand. P.S. I feel so tired of writing fanfiction, even more tired than writing original works before. I need to untangle various settings, and I feel constrained. Now I'm less and less interested in writing. Chapter 239. There is one more thing. After Zabu called a halt, Qin Ren controlled the sands to float up, dragged out by Awan Bay, and after confirming that there was no major damage, he skillfully repaired the field. After the field was repaired, the seventh game began with Mike's lively commentary. The seventh game of the first round. He has been famous since junior high school. He doesn't look like a good guy at all. Hero department. Bakugo Katsuki. Fight. Manly and tough. Hot-blooded man. Hero department. Kirishima Jiro. Amid Mike's unscrupulous commentary, two hedgehog heads walked onto the battle stage. An all-around genius with a hot temper and a bad temper, but with an excellent mind. In Class A, most people have a mediocre relationship with him because of his personality, whether it is giving people insulting nicknames at any time, doing his own thing when working in a team, or being rude to others. And there are also several people who alienate him. Only Kamen Moritanki, who has a frivolous and self-acquainted personality, has a slightly better relationship with him. The only one who can be called a good friend of Bakugo is Kirishima, a cheerful, helpful, and emotionally infectious hot-blooded man. However, Bakugo Katsuki's distorted self-esteem and his goal of winning first place make it impossible for him to hold back. Looking at Kirishima standing opposite him, his face revealed a malicious smile that showed he was not a good guy at all, and he snapped his fingers, making a clicking sound. Hedgehog head. I won't hold back. You are completely weak in a protracted battle. You have a hedgehog head, too. Knowing that Bakugo's quirk attack power is strong, Kirishima naturally would not underestimate him. During these 2 weeks of training, not only have you grown, I have grown too. As the words fell, Kirishima's skin instantly became visibly harder. During these 2 weeks, he also received a lot of education. The weakness of your personality is the duration, and you have no reasonable grasp of the degree of hardening of your body, are unclear about the direction of development, and lack the means of medium and long-range attacks. The strength of the human body is formed by the combination of muscle contraction and relaxation. Muscles are composed of muscle fibers bundled together like steel cables. These steel cables are combined into thicker and longer cable groups. When the muscles exert force, they expand and contract like springs. The strength can be said to be the sum of countless springs. You should also know that when you completely harden your muscles, you are completely unable to move. Although your personality is inconspicuous, it is not weak. How to strengthen your body strength through hardening. You don't think that your personality can only make your body harder, do you? Personality extension. Extension. Do you know? Have you played with the clown box? When you open the box, a lot of things will pop out. Don't harden the entire muscle. When the muscle contracts, harden both ends of the muscle, just like a clown box, to store the power. Then, release it all at once. What do you think? Can't believe it? You can become even stronger. Your personality can bring out the human body's ultimate strength and use it on your legs. It can make you much faster and can even be used as a special move. If you can achieve incomplete hardening, but only increase muscle strength without completely hardening, you can exert even more powerful force. Why? To put it simply, which is stronger, a metal spring or a plastic spring? Do you understand? You have been thinking about defense all the time. You always think that the harder the better, right? Your thinking is too narrow. You can experiment carefully later to see if you can achieve incomplete hardening. One more thing. Your fighting skills are too weak. Come, learn from me. Are the moves too cruel? This is a move intended to kill. When fighting with villain, don't think about showing mercy. Alas, be restrained and be more ruthless. This is a fighting skill. Your previous fighting skills are like shit. Aizawa, Come here and teach him the skills to subdue the enemy in close combat. He is so timid and afraid of this and that. He doesn't look like a man. Oh, are you angry again? That's not bad. Practice more. Your personality's main fighting method is close combat. Why don't you practice close combat skills? Why don't you practice various fighting skills such as fighting and sanda? Are you stupid? No, it's okay for performance. With real swords and guns, you can only be pinned to the ground and beaten. There is another thing. Why do you need to harden so many parts here? When you attack with a knife, you don't need to harden the whole palm. You only need to harden the edge of the palm. Harden the fingers and stab. Yes, but it's the same. You only need to harden the fingers and even the fingertips. When you punch straight, where is the main impact surface? This side, this bone, shape, you can harden your body, and you can also slightly adjust some shapes, right? Yes. Then let me ask you, is it more painful to hit with a wooden board from the side or from the front? The side, right? Why? Do you know? You know how not to use the physics knowledge in middle school? Precise use of hardening can extend the duration of your personality and increase damage. One more thing, when you have time, use your hardening to the utmost after leaving enough time for recovery. Even if the duration is over, you must continue to harden to the limit. During the recovery time, you can train combat skills, and you can also be an imaginary enemy in a desperate situation when you have used all your strength. After the personality is used to the limit, how should you fight? One more thing, how much do you exercise normally? What, so little? As I said before, your personality can allow you to exert the maximum strength of your muscles. The stronger your own strength limit is, the more benefits you can bring. Forget it. You are only 15 years old. Girls basically stop growing at the age of 15. Some grow 3 or 4 centimeters or even no growth. But men can grow about 10 centimeters after the age of 15, and maybe 15 centimeters. Children nowadays are so well nourished. However, high-intensity muscle training may not make them grow taller. High intensity is not okay. But low intensity is at least okay, right? Did you hear that? Are you dead? If you are not dead, make a sound. One more thing, personality extension. Do you know the principle of eye imaging? Think about it. Can you make your eyes have a farther field of vision through hardening? Forget it. It's an eye after all. It's a little dangerous. You have to practice carefully. Now there's not much time. You can practice later. I'm just giving you an inspiration. Besides, if you have any problem, go to the recovery girl immediately. You know her personality, right? One more thing. Do you think you can't attack from a distance? Come on, try this. What? Do you think throwing stones is too embarrassing? Choose your face or your life. That's right. If you really think throwing stones is not okay, then add more throwing objects to the design of a combat uniform in the future. I never thought that Mr. Izel's mouth was so poisonous. Was he infected by Mr. Zabu? Recalling the various teachings of Mr. Izel, Kirishima Jiro burst into tears. Taking a deep breath, Kirishima Jiro hardened his fists. Bakugo's blast is a range attack. It requires a large area to maintain the hardening. Only harden the skin and reduce consumption. He has overcome the weakness of protracted warfare. Chapter 240. Who gave you the courage to fight head-on? Begin. Fierce fury heavy fighting split Wooloo. With Zabu's voice, he shouted the name of the move that no one else could understand, and Kirishima kicked his legs hard. The muscles in his legs relaxed under high pressure, and a powerful force burst out. The whole person was like a red arrow flying towards Bakugo Katsuki. So fast. Although he said harsh words, Bakugo Katsuki was actually still alert. However, Kirishima's growth in the past 2 weeks in that small venue was not reflected much. This sudden acceleration, although slower than the glasses man's speed, was also close to the waist. Without any hesitation, he raised his hands and aimed forward. Explosive speed vortex. Not backward, but forward. The propulsion move originally used for high-speed movement was reversed by him for attack. In his hands, a bright light burst out, and the strong explosion of nitroglycerin caused the pressure in his palms to rise sharply. The air vibrated violently, and the shock wave surged from the center of the explosion to Kirishima Jiro, who was rushing towards him at a speed exceeding the speed of sound. There are 2 types of killing effects of shockwaves on people. One is direct killing, which is the damage caused by the direct effect of shockwaves on the human body. The other is indirect killing, which is the damage caused to people by objects destroyed by shockwaves or projectiles. For explosives such as grenades or mines, the main threat is fragments. Shrapnel flying out under strong impact can cause great harm to people, if the power is not as strong as the blast wave of nuclear weapons. In general, at least explosives such as grenades and mines, indirect damage is more terrible than direct damage. But this does not mean that the power of shockwaves is small. At zero distance, this kind of power of shockwaves is enough to break all the bones in a person's body. Bakugo Katsuki, who didn't know what the structure of bones and flesh was, just took a few steps back under the effect of recoil, and fired shockwaves at Kirishima Jiro without any damage to his arm. Boom! The strong airflow driven by the shockwave burst out instantly and hit Kirishima Jiro directly. The shockwave decayed very quickly, but compared to solids and liquids, the attenuation rate of shockwaves in the air is not small, even for such a directional blasting shockwave. Within a few meters, the original supersonic shockwave has decayed to subsonic speed, and the energy of the explosion escapes into the surrounding air and converts into high heat. But even so, the strong impact still blasted Kirishima Jiro in the air. Although he is not a close combat expert, Kirishima's close combat skills have also achieved excellent growth in the 2 weeks of devilish training, and his speed of hardening and canceling hardening has also improved a bit. When the explosion was about to hit him, his eyelids drooped and hardened instantly, and the front of his eyeballs also hardened to protect his vulnerable parts. Under the surface of the skin, another layer of flesh and blood hardened in various parts of his body. Harden when attacked. Learn to switch defense quickly, which can also train your reaction speed and personality release time. Next, I will control it to hit you continuously. You can only harden quickly before the attack arrives and cancel it immediately after the attack ends. The front half centimeter of Kirishima's skin directly facing the shockwave did not harden, and the back and legs that were not hit by the shockwave naturally did not harden. It's a bit hot. Kirishima Jiro's eyelids and the front of his eyeballs faded away before he landed steadily after the impact. At the moment of landing, he had already opened his eyes. Sure enough, it's still an attack method like a wild boar, hedgehog head. Bakugo Katsuki shook his hands back to relieve the discomfort caused by the temporary release of the powerful impact, then jumped up, and his hands exploded with small explosions one after another. The continuous shockwaves pushed his body forward towards Kirishima Jiro. Explosive turbo. Pushing the enemy away is not for guerrilla warfare, but just to regain the right to attack first. Who is attacking and who is suppressing? This is very important. Bakugo Katsuki, who was extremely competitive, made a short and fast advance with the help of the explosive turbine, and his hands were continuously exploding in opposite directions to the left and right. His body was spinning in the air, like a spiral. When he was 2 meters away from Kirishima Jiro, his hands moved forward and released a violent explosion, creating a powerful shock wave. Howitzer hit. The extremely aggressive Bakugo immediately launched a fierce pursuit after repelling Kirishima. Faced with such a situation, Kirishima was not afraid. Your advantage is your strong hardening ability. If someone wants to fight you head-on, there is only one thing you need to do: Anriling Gabaru middle. Ryu Judo Lai 2. Combined moves. Ryu Yuta middle. Anriling Gabaru, Kirishima's strongest defensive move before, including the eyes, increases the hardness and durability of the entire body to the highest level, and can resist almost all attacks, even cannonballs, and the appearance becomes like a monster, but the whole body will be stiff, and it can only last for half a minute. Fierce Wrath. Stubborn Fighting, is a hardened right fist, a most powerful right straight punch. Fierce Wrath. Stubborn Fighting, is a strengthened right fist improved from Fierce Wrath, which uses spring-like muscle strengthening to deliver a right straight punch. These two moves were the ones he knew before joining the AI. After all, they were just simple full-body hardening and right arm hardening, which were not difficult. Now, under the training of Aizawa and Aizawa, he has improved new moves. Full-body hardening, skin, flesh, bones, and eyeballs are also completely hardened, but the muscles related to the right straight punch are not hardened. Only these muscles are left unhardened, because the right fist needs to be strengthened. Fierce wrath, stubborn fighting. In a short moment, on Kirishima Ijiro's body, a series of hardened sharp edges and corners gathered on him, like a suit of armor. The right fist that was tightened and burst out during the hardening collided with Bakugo Katsuki, who was like a spiral bullet. Then, boom, crack, amidst the horrible explosion, there was a crisp sound of bone cracking. Qin Ren looked at the smoke and dust on the field caused by the explosion and shook his head. He had to be kissed by the recovery girl and then rest for several days. Although Bakugo Katsuki has a bad temper, he is very smart, which is undeniable. But because of this, the development level of his own personality has reached a high level under his own development. In the 2 weeks of training, Bakugo has indeed improved, but a personality with excellent development has improved very little in these 2 weeks, and a personality with a low development level like Kirishima has improved a lot. And in a close combat, let alone Bakugo Katsuki, even if Midoriya is Yuku and Kirishima go head-to-head, Midoriya will definitely lose. No, it should be said that even if it is All Might, it is easy to beat Kirishima, but if he goes head-to-head with Kirishima in this state, All Might will definitely be injured. Qin Ren was also very surprised by the hardness of Kirishima's personality. It can be said that if there is anyone in this world who can withstand his attack head-on and not die, it is probably only Kirishima. All Might is definitely not the same. Although his attack power is strong, in the eyes of keen people, he is still a fragile person. Chapter 241 Emergency. Although everyone knows what a quirk is, no one really understands the limit of Kirishima's hardness. Even Ashido Mina, who is in the same middle school as him, does not know the limit of Kirishima's hardening. And the power that Kirishima burst out also made everyone marvel. Mineta Minoru even had an expression of the level pyramid has collapsed again. Next, it was the battle between Midoriya Izuku versus Ida Tenya, and Tetsu versus Uraraka Okiko. However, Qin Ren was still very interested in these two battles. After all, although Midoriya used OFA full coverage to greatly improve his speed, he was still slower than Ida, whose quirk was engine. Ida even had a move called piston engine middle dot explosive sprint, which increased the horsepower and speed in an instant, generating an explosive momentum. The side effect was that the engine would temporarily shut down after a few seconds. Although there is no clear data, in the plot, Ida's speed is close to or even exceeds All Might. If Midoriya wants to defeat Ida, it is impossible to win by speed, unless he can achieve 100% OFA coverage and reach the speed of All Might. Even if he uses OFA full coverage to dodge, without the speed advantage, it is difficult to have any impact on Ida using wind pressure straight punches such as Texas Smash and wind pressure rising punches such as Detroit Smash. According to Midoriya's characteristics, he probably chooses to predict Ida's attack route and launch an attack in advance. As a competitive game, Ida cannot use a kick in the case of burst sprint. Such a kick will definitely kill people. No, to be precise, at Ida's usual speed, a kick can also kill people. But as a competitive event, their fight is impossible to kill. In the original book, in the battle between Ida and Todoroki Shido, Ida always took the approach of grabbing people and throwing them out of the field. As for the fight between Uraraka Okiko and Tetsu, it depends on whether Uraraka touches Tetsu first and makes him float, or Tetsu knocks Uraraka down first. Tetsu's quirk stealing can turn his body into steel, although I don't know what kind it is, carbon steel, alloy steel, pig iron. But anyway, he has no means of long-range attack, and I don't know if he can accurately exert the power of the quirk amplification through his muscles like Kirishima. If he can, the trick of grabbing stones to attack like Kirishima is still feasible. However, if it doesn't work or can't be done at this stage, then as long as Uraraka approaches and touches his body, he will float up, unable to move in the air, and can only admit defeat. Uraraka has been training close combat with Kirishima during this period, so she won't be subdued immediately. It depends on who goes first and who goes last, and then it will be the second round of the game. Snake, Shido, Shiozaki, Shinserenji, Black Domination, and Quartz Jikshin who he controls are actually not suspenseful. Under the overwhelming strength, He and Snake will win the final victory. But we can let it go and make the game more exciting. However, just as Qin Ren was thinking, a voice came from his headset. Izil, come here for a moment. There's something urgent. It was Aizawa's voice. Urgent matter? Qin Ren was slightly stunned, and then without saying anything, he walked towards the commentary room from the side door of the open-air stadium. Cementsi also replaced his referee position and went to the opposite side of Zabu. When Qin Ren came to the commentary room, he found another person. Chain Sumeragi, the dog girl of the Hidden Wolf Force, or the woman called Qian Huang, Aizawa, the principal, and All Might were all standing here. Qin Ren remained calm and said, "What happened?" The Hidden Wolf Force basically only appears for major events, and the things that need to be discussed with All Might are enough to show their importance. Hearing this, the dog girl opened the briefcase in her hand and took out 2 photos. In the first photo, there was a naked giant. The second photo showed rows of humans sunk in cylindrical nutrient tanks. Their common feature was that their brains were exposed. The third photo showed a little girl with a single horn on the right side of her forehead. This is a powerful force created by the god warrior Afo. It has extraordinary strength and can use multiple personalities without modification. The dog girl introduced, Afo, a long time ago, had the practice of creating subordinates by giving the target personalities. This god warrior, and the villain with multiple personalities called Brainless that appeared before, are all creations of Afo. However, according to our Hidden Wolf Force's investigation, it was discovered that Afo has an assistant called Dr. Brainless. The strong physical fitness that can withstand multiple personalities, is actually transformed by this doctor, and Afo only gave the brainless personalities. Bulk. The dog girl did not explain how they found out, but just described the situation. Aizawa, the principal, and All Might all looked very gloomy. Aizawa and Izil had fought against Nuku in person, and they also told them about Nuku's strength, especially Qin Ren's description. His strength is comparable to All Might, or even a little stronger than All Might, and he has a quirk that seems to be able to absorb impact. Just the fact that his strength is comparable to All Might is enough to shock the entire hero society. How serious is the situation when Nuku can be mass-produced? We must find Nuku's manufacturing factory as soon as possible and destroy it, and capture the doctor. Qin Ren was secretly complaining in his heart. What's so strange about this? Have you played Red Alert? Learn about the Mad Orcs. Life enhancement, fast self-healing, damage enhancement, increased attack speed, enhanced vision, increased speed, immunity to mental attacks, immunity to poison gas. As long as you have money, countless muscular men are online. Give me a dozen Mad Orcs. Let's have a Mad Orc fight Nuku. Although Qin Ren was excited, he still had an indifferent look on his face. We are not good at reconnaissance. Wait until you find him and make combat deployment, then notify us. Okay. The dog girl nodded. The third photo is the situation we accidentally discovered when we tried to track down the doctor and traced the location of the brainless manufacturing factory from the last activity route of the missing person. The dog girl took out another photo, which showed a young man wearing a crow's mouth mask and dressed like a doctor of the Black Death. This is the young master of the Death Yakuja Society. Originally, the Death Yakuja Society was a gangster group. In the early years, many terrorist organizations fled to the underground world. As the Heroic Society gradually prospered, most of the terrorist organizations were cleared, but some organizations still existed. The Death Yakuja Society is one of them. Originally, their style was not to gamble, not to sell drugs, not to fight with ordinary people, and even took the initiative to eliminate some enemy groups. They also protested against being designated as an enemy group. They were designated as the enemy group with the least threat, so they were also at the end of the cleanup list. Also, we didn't find their hiding place. But, a few months ago, we discovered something. They smuggled a batch of unknown drugs from the United States. As the dog girl told her story, everyone present was a little confused. Smuggling? The investigation of such a thing. Chapter 242. The Eight Deadly Sect. The young master of the Death Yakuja Society is called Chizaki Kai. For some reason, he claims his name is Repair Master. With the cooperation of the local hero office, Our hidden wolf force has already found some of the whereabouts of the Death Hikai Society. This year, the Death Hikai Society has increased its contact with non-gangsters and gangster groups across the country, but they are very vigilant about the movements of professional heroes. Although our hidden wolf force is hidden enough, it has no combat power. The personality is invisible. Whether it is the figure, weight, body temperature, touch, body odor, or any attribute belonging to oneself, it can dilute its concentration to the extreme, that is, the special ability to transform oneself in a very small range. They want to act quickly to track, which is very simple, but there is no aggression. Their ability is not omnipotent. When interfering with things other than themselves, they must materialize part of their body. The ability of the materialized body is the same as that of ordinary people, and it can be killed using ordinary weapons. If you activate the invisibility that exceeds the 13th sensitivity and dilute yourself to the extreme, you may even cause your consciousness to dissipate and die directly. Two dangerous situations should also be avoided as much as possible. Listening to the dog girl's words, Aizawa Shoda thought for a while. Do you need me? As a secret hero, Aizawa Shoda rarely appears in front of the media. Even in the years he stayed in school, he basically never showed up. During the sports festival, he stayed in the commentary room with Mike and didn't even go to the audience stand for teachers. All Might didn't say anything. He was not suitable for secret operations, there was no doubt about that. But you can't try to approach in a normal posture, and then transform immediately when you meet villain. Not many people know about the skinny posture. When he revealed his intention, he was stopped by the dog girl. The movement of the giant god soldier is still unclear. I don't know if a foe is likely to appear. The only ones who can fight a foe are Klaus and All Might. Klaus is not in Tokyo now. You need to stay here. I'll go, Qin Ren suddenly said. Aizel. Everyone else's eyes turned to him, and All Might said bluntly, your flamboyant way of action is not suitable, right? As a symbol of peace, All Might's various actions are deliberately exaggerated and flamboyant. This can be seen from his skinny posture that he is a very stable person. Qin Ren's actions are more exaggerated than his. The Obelisk's giant warrior, Osiris's sky dragon, desert tyrant, sand crocodile legion, giant warrior arm are extremely powerful, and they are more like deliberately showing off their military power than endeavor. Various moves are more flamboyant than his. Wouldn't it be easier to be vigilant when he moves? Others have the same view. Qin Ren just smiled and raised his hand. Under the gaze of everyone, countless quicksigns gathered on his face to form another face. With Qin Ren's current thinking speed, it is quite simple to control sands of various colors to form a face on his face. Skin color is not a problem at all. This move is the inspiration I got from Kirishima. Kirishima's hardened personality can adjust the muscle contours, which can not only change his face, but also change his body shape. I tried it several times and finally figured it out. Qin Ren pushed the credit to Kirishima. Now that he can do this kind of operation, he is not afraid of being associated with the principal and Aizawa to be replaced. After all, his current body is still that of Higawara Shachin, and the blood test has confirmed his identity. It is easy to be suspected if he hides it. If he shows it openly, as long as he is not caught on the spot, he will not be besieged by professional heroes. Bad guys can attack good guys at will, but if good guys want to attack bad guys, they must first confirm that the other party is a bad guy and has committed a crime. What's more, with his current strength, he is not afraid even if he is exposed. Even All Might can't beat him. Qin Ren now has overflowing gold coins, and he keeps refreshing the exchange bar, throwing away all the junk items. He has all kinds of powerful equipment in his hands, and has exchanged a lot of vouchers and item bars. He also has a lot of skills, but he still lacks vouchers. He needs to defeat the enemy to get the certificate. On the other side, there is the Death Hikai Society. Under the ground, there are more than 100 basements that extend in all directions, creating complex roads. Even if the professional heroes break in, they cannot cause trouble to the Death Hikai Society. The terrain is enough to make the Death Hikai Society retreat. If there are fewer professional heroes, they may even fall directly at the hands of the Death Hikai Society. A young man wearing a bird beak mask, revealing gloomy eyes and wearing white gloves, was sitting on the sofa, looking at the metal box on the table, without saying a word. "Chief, we have contacted various underworld groups this year and collected so much funds. What should we do next?" Next to him, a man wearing a hooded robe and a bird beak mask covering his entire face made a dull voice through the mask. The young man who was called the leader was none other than Izir Qin, or the mechanic. He raised his head and glanced at his childhood friend. "We need to first distribute some of the unfinished products of the refined quirkiness elimination bullets, so that the society can be aware of the existence of the underworld and stimulate demand. We can then sell the finished products at a high price. After the products are distributed to a certain extent, after a hero's quirk is eliminated, some serum that can revive the quirk will flow out. We can then sell the serum to the heroes, and sell the guns and bullets to other groups." As he spoke, he pointed to another box next to him. "Distribute the contents of these 2 boxes to other people, and take one for yourself." "What is this?" "The box over here contains quirkiness enhancement drugs that can enhance your quirks. The other box contains quirkiness elimination bullets. Each of you takes 3 bullets. Although they are unfinished products and can only eliminate quirks for 2 or 3 hours. 2 or 3 hours is enough time for you to kill the heroes." "Kill the heroes? Leader, are we going to go to war with the heroes?" "Qin, our recent actions have been tracked down." The repairman turned his gaze to the side, and a man wearing a bowler hat noticed his gaze and nodded. "Itomoto?" The man called Qin looked at Itomoto Shin next to him. "Were we tracked down by the professional heroes?" Itomoto Shin's personality of being honest can force people to answer, and Qin Shin did not doubt the authenticity of his information. "In order to expand funds, we have contacted too many gangs. The professional heroes and the police are not fools and have noticed our actions," Itomoto Shin said. Then Qin Shin looked at the leader, the repairman. "Should we start in advance?" "No." The repairman crossed his hands in front of his eyes. "The Emperor of the Dark World may take action recently, and we'd better be quiet now." Hearing this, Qin Shin was stunned. The Dark Emperor who dominated the entire underworld, feared by the elders of the Hikai society, all for one, has taken action recently. For the entire dark world, for all the villains in Japan, that person is the emperor who controls day and night. We don't need to worry. With the quiz erasing bullets and the quiz strengthening drug, we will be able to win no matter which professional hero comes. Chapter 243 Invasion. The Hikai. Qin Ren was acting in another look, to be precise, as Izir, which was the face that Qin Ren drew for the game's protagonist. Similar to Izir, not the face of Higawara Shachin. Although both the police and the hero agency had determined that the Hikai was illegally selling certain items and had smuggled certain items. However, in this heroic society, it was too easy to sell the stolen goods. Although the Hikai was judged as an enemy group, their crimes had been arrested and detained by the police. With the end of the judgment and detention, they were written off. The Hikai now had no actual charges. In this society ruled by law, even if you know they are dangerous elements and enemies, you cannot arrest them if you don't have evidence. The Hikai is now innocent. Moreover, after being arrested a few years ago, they have never committed a crime again. It's not that they haven't really committed a crime, but there is no evidence. During this period, there were several situations that were close to fighting. However, because Izir Qin, the quirk of the repairer, was overhaul, it was similar to Josuke Gashikata in the fourth part of JoJo. Diamond is unbreakable, and the chefs stand Crazy Diamond and Pearl Jam. The quirk of the repairer can destroy and regenerate, and can decompose and reassemble the objects touched by the hand. When reassembling the human body, it can also have the effect of curing injuries and diseases. It is a superposition of destruction and healing. As long as it can be repaired immediately, the person can be resurrected. Even if it is no longer a human form, it can still be completely cured. Shigaraki's quirk is necrosis, and the quirk of the repairer is equivalent to Shigaraki's quirk plus a healing one. Simply put, it can break a person into pieces and then reassemble them into a human. Of course, the target is not only human. The repairer can also do only destruction without reassembly. It is much stronger than Shigaraki. There is no evidence to prove that Shijaya killed people. Even if there are witnesses, the repairer accidentally killed people, and they can immediately reassemble them with their quirks. Not only did he not kill anyone, but he cured all the illnesses of this person. If someone insists that he is treating you, you can't do anything about it. The person being treated has to thank the repairman. Of course, this kind of society also has spiritual personalities like Shinso, but the killed person is just standing there. Do you want to accuse someone of murder? Who did he kill? The personality of the repairman is really difficult to deal with. But Qin Ren is not afraid, not at all. Even if he is touched and decomposed by the other party dozens of times, he can still recover. After all, the sand fruit itself can disperse and reorganize. Moreover, when he was at the E level of bloodline and the eye of the desert, his control limit for sand was as small as microns and as large as centimeters. For him, the diameter of less than 1 centimeter and up to 1 micron is all sand that can be controlled. And the size limit of particles that Qin Ren can control now, the smallest can be nanometers and the largest can be decimeters. This is the control limit of the bloodline D-level Sun Eye. Particles with a diameter of more than nanometers can be controlled. Even if his body is broken into nano-level debris, he can manually reorganize it. Moreover, Qin Ren was completely in a state of possession. Even if his body died, the opponent could not attack him who was almost a consciousness, and it would not cause any fundamental damage. Moreover, whether he could be touched was another question. Qin Ren walked on the street, his eyes swept across a house of medium size in the distance. The police and a group of professional heroes said that he and another hero should find a way to investigate. To be honest, he only needed to open a sun disk to see the headquarters of the A-deaths and the underground passages leading to all directions, but that was too boring. Just use these two skills. Skill, third eye, G. Skill, sand clone, G. Control the sand and create a clone. Attacks on this clone will be resolved by the sand, but the sand clone will not completely turn into the caster's appearance and can only attack physically. To be honest, he has already developed this skill himself, and he can also control sand of different colors to simulate skin and clothing colors. The third eye can provide vision, just like the vision seen by the naked eye, but not like the sun disk that can see everything. Because of the development of the heroic society, various personalities have emerged, and the development direction of science and technology has also become deformed. The development direction of the most basic products and technologies such as mobile phones, televisions, and computers for the general public is nothing special, but in the high-level technology, various cutting-edge technology companies have made various auxiliary equipment tailored for individuals. It can be said that this kind of equipment, in this society, has become a weapon. Such companies are naturally subject to strict control by the state. Submitting applications and retaining detailed information are basic operations. Even non-professional heroes and non-professional hero training institutions are illegal to equip combat uniforms. However, there are countermeasures for policies from above. In the dark world, there are naturally illegal arms dealers. The headquarters of the Death Hikai Society, underground, monitoring room. 2 members of the Death Hikai Society were sitting in the monitoring room and chatting, only glancing at the monitor from time to time. This patch of equipment is really expensive. I heard that the leader spent a lot of money to buy this patch of equipment. One of them opened and closed his palms, and the equipment similar to brass knuckles was tied to his hands. There was a tiny hole on each blade. My personality, toxins, can easily kill people, but the amount that can be produced is very small, and it is difficult to inject into the human body to take effect. Me too. Another member of the Death Hikai Society raised his right hand, holding a machine gun in his left hand. From the fingertips of his right hand, bullet-like metals emerged. I can make heavy metals, but the heavy metals I make are very small, and these metals will slowly break down over time. He directly inserted the fingers of his right hand into the machine gun magazine with holes at the back. Because of this personality, he can only make bullets for his own use, and he can only use them in this way. At this time, the two suddenly saw a person emerging from the wall in front of them, the treasure chest chief. In their Shui Hikai Society, there is a chief called Druka Chingyai, who has a mimic personality that can blend into objects, and his nickname is Treasure Chest Chief. Seeing the abnormality on the wall, they thought that the treasure chest chief had come. P.S. I will try to reduce the detailed numerical description, which always sounds quite inconsistent. Just know that as the bloodline level increases, all molecules, atoms, and electrons will eventually be included in the scope of SAND. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We are waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 244. No one will notice if we kill them. But immediately, they found something wrong. The person who came out of the wall was a blonde young man, not Minister Ruchichingyai at all. They were all familiar with Ruchichingyai's appearance, whether he was wearing a birdbeak mask or not. What's more, the leader asked the 9 most trusted people to form the Tepoyuhakai. Everyone in the Tepoyuhakai, like the leader, wore a birdbeak mask. For every member of the Shihakai society, becoming the Tepoyuhakai is the supreme honor. Minister Ruchichingyai, who is called the treasure chest monster, has always been proud of it. Since the formation of the Tepoyuhakai, everyone has never seen Minister Treasure Chest Monster take off his birdbeak mask in front of everyone. Although they haven't seen the minister take off his mask for a long time, they will not forget what the minister looks like. Someone is invading. Kinzo, the member of the Hakai Society who can produce toxins, raised his fist, took a fighting stance, and shouted loudly, reminding the other person to pay attention while also issuing a warning to the outside. The man called Jin Zhao reacted immediately, raised his light machine gun and opened fire, attacking the man who came out of the wall. Bang, 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 the muzzle flashed, and heavy metal bullets shot out from the barrel, shooting at the blonde young man who came out of the wall. Too weak, the blonde man's fingers swept back and forth in the air at a speed that was difficult for the naked eye to match. He easily caught each bullet, and then threw it out at the same speed, shooting down the subsequent bullets ejected from the muzzle of the light machine gun. Bang, 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 countless metal fragments exploded and scattered in the air, and 100 bullets were all shattered. And such a scene was horrifying in the eyes of the machine gun man who entered the buffer period due to the continuous use of his personality. But no matter what, they could not give up the attack. The Poison Claw man, who was familiar with his companion's personality and defects, immediately punched when the machine gun man stopped attacking. The venom secreted followed the Poison Claw to the sharp front end, and spread to the fine grooves on the surface of the Poison Claw through capillary phenomenon. As long as it penetrates the opponent's body, this poison, which is comparable to the poison of the blue-ringed octopus, can quickly cause vomiting, respiratory disorders, and then movement disorders, hand and foot paralysis, and finally paralysis and death. However, with the speed and strength that this person just showed, it is too difficult to stab him. But he has already thought about what would happen if someone is faster than him and dodges his attack. This is one of the countermeasures. However, for some reason, when he launched the attack, the blonde man in front of him did not defend himself. But just when his attack was about to touch the opponent, a white shadow flashed by, and the Poison Claw man suddenly felt a pain in his chest, and then his body flew backwards. Boom! With a loud bang, the Poison Claw man's body was embedded in the wall covered with screens. However, after the subconscious expression of pain overflowed, his eyes fell on his chest, looking at the torn clothes, but a smile appeared on his face. You are dead, idiot. He is not very smart. Although the personality of the poison is strong, it lacks the means to infect people. Creating fine lines on the poison claws and using capillary phenomena to increase the adhesion of the toxin was a method taught to him by others. His original method was to wear accessories with spikes on various parts of his body that were vulnerable to attack, and inject toxins into them. Once someone attacked these parts, they would be poisoned. This was the countermeasure he envisioned for facing an enemy stronger than himself. Originally, it was difficult to hurt people with this method. After all, in today's society, there are too many personalities with long-range attack methods, and his stupid method is also difficult to work. But, You're dead, idiot. The man with the poison claws had a fierce smile on his face as his throat heated up and he spat out a mouthful of blood with unknown fragments. The blond young man who came out of the wall was looking at the fist. Several hard metal thorns were inserted into his hand. The machine gun man beside him also noticed this incident, but he couldn't take it lightly before the other party completely lost the ability to move. He recovered a little bit of his personality and started again. Copper bullets mixed with lead and cadmium were made from his fingers and sent into the magazine. He pressed his finger and pulled the trigger. With the vibration of the gun's recoil, heavy metal bullets were fired from the muzzle of the light machine gun and shot at the blond young man. Go to hell. On the surface, it was to boost his own momentum, but the machine gun man's heart was full of confusion and anger. Why did a fight happen here? But no one came over. How could no one hear such a loud noise? What were you doing? Are you being lazy? But the result was good. That person was no longer so fast, and he couldn't catch the bullet and was shot. Bullets shot into the other person's body. Toxin. It's really good. Amid the sound of the machine gun, the blond young man sighed, which made the two people present confused. The bullets are also very good. The machine gun man suddenly noticed that the young man who was shot had no blood on his body. But the next moment, both of them felt a pain in the back of their heads at the same time and fainted. It's a pity that it doesn't work on me. The blond young man chuckled, waved his right hand, and the whole right hand scattered into quicksand, and the metal spike in his hand was also thrown out. On the body, the broken bullets slowly discharged from the part where the young man was shot and fell to the ground. The young man was naturally Qin Ren, or Qin Ren's sand clone. Twisting his wrist, Qin Ren looked at his palm. This sand clone is not very easy to use. To be honest, this sand clone is much simpler than controlling the sand himself. You just need to give orders. But the disadvantage is also very big. That is, it can't keep up with Qin Ren's reaction speed. After he gave the order, the sand clone would be delayed for a while before it was created. If he gave dozens of orders in a second, the sand clone would not be able to react at all, and could not even defend, so it would be shot in vain. With his current magic power, not to mention machine gun bullets, sniper rifles, and cannons could not break the sand shield. It is still faster to control the sand by yourself, using the third eye and controlling the sand by yourself, without the need for a sand clone. The third eye provides vision and controls the movement and reaction of the sand, which is much faster than giving orders to the sand clone. However, another self-created trick is still quite effective. Sound interference. Control the air, ground, and walls of the entire room to make vibration interference so that the sound cannot be transmitted. This is assassination. I am an assassin. Take my axe, Connor! Chapter 245 Crocodile, Fight. After knocking down two people easily, Qin Ren thought for a while and looked at his skill bar. He felt like playing. He currently had skills from various characters. Gar had 6 skills and Crocodile had 7. Skill, Sand Fruit, G. Skill, Scorpion Venom Needle, G. Skill, Desert Prison, G. Skill, Ground Cracks, G. Skill, Sandstorm, G. These 5 were already there. Skill, Crescent Sand Dune, G. Enlarge the arm and turn it into a crescent-shaped sand blade to slash the enemy. The sand blade will only touch the body and will not cause damage. This is a terrifying move that will suck all the moisture out of the enemy once it is slashed by the sand blade, and eventually the enemy will fall down powerlessly and become a mummy lacking moisture. Skill, Desert Sword, G. Enlarge the arm and release it into a sand blade. It has the sharpness to cut the ground and even the desert. This is the skill Qin Ren got after brushing the exchange bar nearly 70 times and changing the exchange time to 8,300 gold coins. At this moment, a member of the Baz High Society who passed by the monitoring room looked at his fallen companion and the young blonde man standing in the monitoring room with his back to him, and couldn't help but wonder, "Who are you?" "Who am I?" "Since you asked sincerely then." While touching his eyes, Qin Ren smiled and controlled the bodies of the sand soldiers who had sneaked into the Baz High Society to disintegrate, and then his own body also dissipated into quicksand. Flash. With a dazzling golden light flashing, Qin Ren's body instantly appeared at the location where the sand soldiers were originally, and his appearance at this moment has changed again, changing into a man with a black slicked back hair, a long scar on his face, an earring on his right ear, a black fur coat, a golden hook in his left hand and a normal right hand, just like an Italian mafia. Touching his face, Qin Ren's face was mixed with Crocodile's dry smile. Me, Mr. Zero, Crocodile. You can call me Sir Crocodile, Mr. Crocodile. Biting the cigar, Qin Ren's face was mixed with a hint of ill intention, and a sound came out of his mouth. There is an intruder. Although he was a little dazed because of the sudden situation, this member of the Eight Houses Society immediately shouted and tried to call his companions, and the sand soldier Crocodile just stared at him with a smile on his face. Boy, are you done shouting? Hearing this, the other party just had a gloomy face. You guy, don't be arrogant. This is the Eight Houses Society. But the moment he finished speaking, a crescent-shaped quicksand swept over his body, making his body dry up instantly, like a mummy. I know. Under Qin Ren's deliberate role-playing, he looked like Crocodile, and shook the cigar in his mouth, and fine sand and dust floated from the sand cigar like smoke. Not anymore in the future. Sha turned around, his eyes swept over the two people lying on the ground, and Qin Ren took out the 1,000-year-old tin staff. You are undercover agents in the 8-Sai Society, and your real identity is a member of the Baroque Works. You are Mr. 14, and you are Mr. 15. From now on, call me the President. A golden light flashed, and the two people stood up in a daze, and their expressions gradually became clear. Yes, President. However, one of them, the poison claw man who was knocked away by Sha Bing's light punch, suddenly spit out blood, and blood kept pouring out of the corners of his mouth. If you don't treat it, you may die if you continue to move. Qin Ren made such a judgment, but it doesn't matter, he also has a way to treat it. Skill, healing, G, restore 9% to 34% G and other health points for you in the target-friendly army, and provide you in the target-friendly army with a 30% movement speed bonus, lasting. If the target has been affected by other healing spells recently, the healing effect of the healing spell on the target is halved. Cooling down, 240 seconds. A green light flashed, and the poison claw man could clearly feel that the pain in his body had disappeared a lot. This situation made the poison claw man slightly stunned. However, Qin Ren naturally did not say much, but just moved his lips. Let's go, clean up the Bazhai Society and recover the lost territory. This is the territory of our Baroque studio. The Bazhai Society, a group of little bugs, seized the territory while I was away. Now we have to recover the lost territory. Yes, President. The poison claw man and the machine gun man answered in unison, and the familiar person on the ground became unimportant after they remembered their undercover identity. On the other side, in a room, a man wearing a bird beak mask was sitting cross-legged on the tatami, as if meditating. At this moment, a sturdy arm waved his fist and punched him heavily. Bang! A layer of transparent light shield appeared beside him and blocked the fist. However, after blocking it, a series of bangs and bangs were heard. A pair of fists were attacking the protective wall at a very fast speed. Along with the bangs like bullets, there was a rough male voice with a manic fighting spirit in his voice, like a wild beast. Tiange, your protective wall is still strong enough. Come on, fight with me. The man who was meditating opened his eyes and looked at the shirtless strong man who was constantly attacking his protective wall. He couldn't help but sigh. Luanbo shoulder movement, a personality. Luan shoulder, can use extremely fast shoulder rotation to make extremely amazing, bullet-like continuous attacks. However, he was just a wild beast who only pursued violence. His protective wall could block the opponent's attack, but the opponent kept challenging him, which made Tiange very annoyed. To be precise, this guy was defeated by the Master Repairer. He kept challenging the Master Repairer. The Repairer who thought he was annoying came to him and threw this trouble to him. Tiange sighed in his heart. It was his job to control this beast that pursued violence and was a battle maniac. However, he actually couldn't defeat the other party. The only one in the entire organization who could defeat this battle maniac was the master repairman. In the battle between shield and spear, his shield would be exhausted first. Just when Tangai Biji wanted to say something, he suddenly found that Ranbo Jiandong stopped attacking and turned his eyes to the door. Tangai Biji was slightly stunned. Tap, 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 1, 2, 3, the footsteps of 3 people. One of them was not from the organization, an outsider, a guest of the Hokkaikai. Tangai Biji thought about it, but Ranbo Jiandong's expression was a little wrong. Enemy. As a battle maniac who came from the underground personality arena, Ranbo was indeed a violent beast, but precisely because he was a beast, his intuition in distinguishing enemies was better than him. A man with a cigar in his mouth, wearing a cloak, a scar on his face, and a golden hook in his left hand, appeared at the door and swept the 2 people with an indifferent look. Come on, let me see your strength. Chapter 246 Crocodile, only cut once. Looking at the 2, Qin Ren, who had transformed into crocodile, had a calm face like a windless desert, not stirring up a grain of sand. Who of you will go first? His indifferent tone and indifference made Tangai Biji's heart hang in the air. He suddenly felt like he was facing a master repairer. No, even when facing a master repairer, he did not feel the pressure of an endless desert. A foe. In his mind, the terrifying person he had seen by chance when he was a child emerged. The Dark Emperor who frightened countless people. Tangai Biji took a deep breath, kept a calm expression, and looked at the person in front of him. Who are you? The huge mental pressure caused him to unconsciously change his words to honorifics for those in a higher position. Hey, Tangai, can't you see he's an enemy? Although he noticed Qin Ren's arrival earlier than Tangai Biji, he did not feel the yes, I'm your enemy. Qin Ren mercilessly interrupted Luanbo Jiandong's words and turned his eyes to him. Instantly, Luanbo Jiandong felt an unstoppable fear that came from his heart. The boundless sea of sand was rolling and raging, and the sand was flying all over the sky, forming a sandstorm. A pair of huge golden eyes were looming in the turbulent sand, like a god looking down on the living beings, emitting a trembling pressure. The owner of the eyes behind the violent sand was so powerful that he could not resist it at all. Luanbo Jiandong had never felt this way before. Never. He understood why Tangai Biji showed such a cowardly expression. Some people would be cowardly, retreat, and surrender under terrifying pressure, but wild beasts would be aroused to be fierce. Qin Ren, who was initially trying to integrate the fear skill into his words and deeds, also noticed Luanbo Jiandong's abnormality. He also smiled, and the golden hook condensed from the quicksand flashed with cold light. Come on, mad dog, let me see your claws. The tone was high and mighty, but no one present felt it was wrong. Even though no one knew who he was or how strong he was, it seemed that the other party was originally a powerful person in a high position. Bang! His fists collided in front of his chest, and listening to the collision sound of the metal gloves, the beast-like madness of Ranbo Shoulder Dong was aroused again. The next second, the shoulder axis moved, and Ranbo Shoulder Dong's arms hit out like machine gun bullets, hitting Qin Ren. The speed is quite fast, probably half of All Might. Although he said so, Qin Ren was very leisurely. The opponent's speed is a nightmare for ordinary people, but at Qin Ren's current attack speed of more than 200 times per second, he can easily resist Ranbo Shoulder Dong's combo punches. His left hand shook, and the golden hook condensed by the quicksand shook in the air into a golden phantom, easily blocking every punch of Ranbo Shoulder Dong. Even when he was blocking the punches, he took out a lighter from his pocket with his right hand and lit the cigar in his mouth. After doing this, he didn't use any strength at all, just gently swung the golden hook to block the punch. Boom! With a loud bang, Luanbo's body was smashed and flew out, embedded in the wall like a nail. His entire right hand was broken and deformed, and many bones seemed to be broken. He had fainted. I accidentally used too much strength. Qin Ren's face was as calm as water, but he felt a little embarrassed. His current magic power allowed him to exert a maximum pressure of nearly 100 tons at zero distance. If the conversion brought by speed is added, the power is not 1 or 2 times. He has been very restrained and restrained. He didn't use magic power at all. He used pure physical power and suppressed the speed to only 1/20th, but the pure physical power converted from attack power is also 33 tons. Awkward. He shouldn't be dead, right? He also planned to brainwash everyone in the 8 houses into members of the Baroque studio and create a Baroque studio in this world. I'll use healing magic to treat him later. It should be able to cure him. Now, let's knock the other person down first. Qin Ren turned his sight to Tangai Bisi next to him. He could clearly feel that when the other party turned his sight, the fear that had just retreated was born again, and because the mental defense line had been broken by fear, his reaction to fear this time was even greater. The moment Qin Ren looked at him with his sight wrapped in the fear skill, Tangai Bisi took a step back. Qin Ren was quite satisfied with Tangai Bisi's reaction, because he didn't use the mana consumption of a skill completely. Momentum value can increase the recovery speed of red and blue. Qin Ren naturally thought of various means to increase momentum value and various ways to show off. Later, when he used the fear skill he got from the scarecrow, he discovered something. Compared with making people amazed, making people afraid can gain more momentum value. So Qin Ren began to try. The principle of using the fear skill is to consume mana and forcibly inject will into the mind of a target, making the other party feel fear and then flee. Qin Ren is trying to incorporate this approach into his own behavior, wanting to turn directional skills into AO effects. Every move he makes people feel scared. At least, his ideal goal is to make others feel scared from the bottom of their hearts when they see him. However, the current process can only make people feel scared when their eyes are shifted, and the effect is best when they look at each other. More practice is needed. While distractedly thinking, Qin Ren stared at Tangai Bisi, raised his golden hook hand leisurely, and said lightly, "If you can block one attack, I will let you go." Between the words, there is an absolute condescending attitude. Okay. For some reason, Tangai Bisi felt a little trembling in his voice. But he didn't have time to think so much. He immediately took a deep breath and activated his personality with all his strength. The barrier constructed by telekinesis condensed and appeared between him and Qin Ren, like a layer of transparent glass. Originally, the telekinesis barrier created by his personality was a semicircular barrier, but under pressure, he concentrated all his telekinesis in the front, and the telekinesis in other positions was weak and broke with a single poke. However, he had no other choice but to believe that this unknown strong man would not attack his weak points and would only attack from the front. "Are you ready?" With Qin Ren's absent-minded and contemptuous tone, Tangai Bisi's heart tightened more and more, and he concentrated all his mental power in front of him in one breath. The next moment, Qin Ren moved. The golden hook condensed by the quicksand surged and disintegrated, and recondensed into a giant knife, desert sword. Estimating the opponent's defense, Qin Ren shrank his magic power by 4/5, and then slashed out, bang! With a crisp sound, it seemed that something invisible in the air was chopped into pieces by the desert sword. Tangai Bisi trembled, and looked at the golden giant knife in front of him with cold sweat. A panicked breath rushed out of his nasal cavity and poured into the birdbeak mask, but it was this breath that made the birdbeak mask make a slight sound. Crack! The birdbeak mask fell off Tangai Bisi's face and fell to the ground, making a hollow echo. Shaking his heart that had been broken to the limit by fear, he fainted. Chapter 247, The Way of Pretending. Because of my greatness and my strength, you have surrendered to me. Tangai Bisi, you will be Mr. 16 from now on, and Luan Bojiandong, you will be Mr. 17 from now on. Qin Ren used the same trick again, injecting magic power into the 1,000-year-old tin staff. The golden scepter transformed Qin Ren's words into memories and engraved them in the minds of the two. Qin Ren also thought carefully that compared to tampering with the original memory, one day he might wake up because he felt a conflict with the existing memory. How many episodes have seen this kind of plot? There are too many plots in which the villain with brainwashing ability shouts it's useless, she only listens to me now, and then is stabbed in the back by the victim who has restored his memory. But Qin Ren is just playing around, just going through the process. Even if he reacts, It doesn't matter. It's okay to use the words already surrendered to transform into memory. After delaying for a while and using healing magic to heal Ranbo Jiandong, who was beaten half to death by him, Qin Ren left Mr. 13 and Mr. 14 here and walked around the inside of the Hokkaido Association. Just as he was wandering around like a tourist, a voice sounded behind him. "Who are you?" A man wearing a top hat and a bird-faced mask was standing at the corner 20 meters behind Qin Ren. Without hearing Qin Ren's answer, the man spoke again. "What's your name? Why are you here? Tell me your purpose." Qin Ren instantly felt a force trying to invade his will and give a true answer, but it was too weak. "Who is the spiritual personality?" "But you are stupid enough to use a spiritual personality on me, with the idea of playing." Qin Ren smiled and let this will enter his mind. A spirit followed the will of this incarnation and flowed to Qin Ren's body in the yellow sand space, surged to the Qin people's body, the huge sun disk floating in the sky. In an instant, the man only felt that he appeared in an incomparable desert, with hot winds carrying sand waves, rolling endlessly, in front of him. There were buildings. It was not the architectural style of Japan, nor the style of any modern country. It seemed to be a huge city cast with yellow sand, a huge city located in the center of the boundless desert. Above this desert city, a huge sun disk floated in the sky. In the center of the disk, a strange symbol similar to an eye was drawn with a flame like red power. "What is this?" The moment he saw this huge disk, a strong sense of fear surged in his heart, making him retreat in horror. Illusion, illusion? He had also heard of the personality that could create illusions. Illusion? Human. Do you think this is an illusion? How insignificant. As the voice sounded, the man turned his sight and saw a scorching sun in the sky. As he looked, the scorching sun seemed to open its eyes, and then the scorching sun fell to the ground. The blazing flames spread across the desert as the scorching sun fell to the ground. Then, a huge head poked out from the sand dunes. The huge head was golden, and the entire dragon head gradually became clearly visible. Then, a huge dragon with a body of golden color and a length of 100 meters flew towards him from the boundless desert. The dazzling golden body seemed to be shaped by countless gold. The scorching light was released from the body of the golden dragon, like the scorching sun. The other party stopped 100 meters away and stared at him with a pair of dragon eyes. The eyeballs alone were bigger than his body. The owner of this pair of huge golden eyes was like the sun god looking down on all living things, exuding a trembling pressure. The hot wind gushing out of the nasal cavity blasted a huge pit in the desert, and blazing flames emerged in the huge pit. Panic involuntarily gushed out from the bottom of my heart, and this made the golden dragon in front of him even more terrifying, especially the huge golden eyes, which were becoming clearer and clearer, the vertical pupils from top to bottom. Just by looking at each other, he felt that his body was burning. However, at this moment, a more majestic voice, like the will of the world itself, that noble voice, rippling in the boundless desert, Purgatory, return to your original position. Follow your will, my lord. Purgatory's golden wings flapped, and the terrifying hot flames burst towards the ground with the vibration of the wings. Boom! With a bang like an explosion, the golden dragon flew into the sky and turned into the scorching sun again, and in this terrifying flame, his body was also covered by the flame. Before his consciousness disappeared, he only heard a whisper, "This time it's over, I'm dead." Qin Ren looked at the man in front of him with flames burning in his body and turned into ashes in the flames, and he fell into deep thought. Originally, he just wanted to show off to this man, let him feel how stupid it was to use mental abilities against him, and then brainwash him into a member of the Baroque studio. But he accidentally killed him. Heaven and earth, he didn't want to kill anyone. It was Purgatory who killed him. For some reason, Qin Ren used a 1,000-year-old tin staff to brainwash 32 in Purgatory, asking them to change the name of the yellow sand space from the underworld to the yellow sand world. By the way, he also adjusted other things, asking Purgatory to call him my lord and making him behave more majestically. Settings such as God is high above, disdain to coexist with lower creatures, etc., which are very consistent with the impression of gods, have made Purgatory a model god. But now it seems that the effect is too good. Fortunately, there is no big adjustment to 32's personality. It is just to correct the memory in accordance with the changes of purgatory, and add a memory of purgatory is becoming more and more majestic. 32 is still the same as before, respecting himself, liking to play pranks, and being greedy. I feel that purgatory is more majestic than me. Should I brainwash myself too? Qin Ren thought with a little entanglement. Inexplicably, he felt that purgatory was pretending. No, purgatory's pretense seems to be more effective than his pretense, but the problem is that even the brainwashing of the Millennium Tin Staff is ineffective for Qin Ren. Although Qin Ren himself doesn't know what's going on, his will seems to be gradually getting stronger with the revival of the yellow sand space, or in other words, it's improving with the increase of bloodline level. The so-called revival refers to those buildings that appear under the sun disk every time the bloodline is upgraded. He can vaguely feel that he has an inexplicable connection with those buildings, which is related to the strength of his will. No, to be precise, his will strength is related to those buildings to a certain extent, not all, but also related to other things. But he still doesn't quite understand what else it is related to. Chapter 248. Are you the repairman? When the Qin people were rampant in the Bazhai society and carried out assassinations deep in the Bazhai society, an honest-looking member raised his head and said to the repairman in a panic, "Something went wrong. Leader, the things I gave to Mr. Atamoto were damaged." Atamoto's magnet is broken? Is it damaged? The repairman raised his head and looked at him indifferently. "No, that's right, leader." The man stretched out his hand, and a black stone emerged from his fingers. His name is Jishu Yuan, and his quirk is Magnet Hand, which can create a palm-shaped moment. These magnets can change and move according to his will, and this hand is like an extension of his palm. The magnet palm can also be divided. After being damaged, it can be restored after a period of time. If the damage is not too small, it can be restored immediately. It is precisely because of this that he can sense the location of these magnets. After being recruited into the Death Hikai Society, his quirk was used as a secret code. If the member holding the magnet is caught or in danger, the magnet will be destroyed immediately, and the magnet will be known immediately, and then the leader will be notified. Originally, the Hikai Society did not use him much. The original purpose of the Hikai Society and the more or less attention of the heroes made the members rarely conflict with the outside world. After the leader fell for unknown reasons, the Keishushi took control of the Hikai Society and paid more attention to his personality, or to be more precise, the actions became more frequent, so he paid more attention to his personality. However, of course, he did not dare to say such words. Hearing his words, the Keishushi turned his eyes to the nearby Zhuangyi Zhen and Iraka Changyi. "You two go over and take a look. Magsuk, you notify Ranbo and Tiangei to go over together." "Yes, leader." "Understood, boss." "Yes, yes." With 3 different voices, 2 of the 7 people present came out and were about to walk out of the gate. But at this time, except for Magsuk Yuan, everyone else turned their eyes to the door. A scarred man with a slicked back hair, a black fur coat and a cigar in his mouth appeared at the door. "Good morning, everyone." Qin Ren waved the golden hook in his left hand and yawned. No one knew this man. As the leader's assistant, Zhuangyi Zhen immediately made a judgment that this man was an intruder. The situation on the side of Atamoto was probably related to this man in front of him. "Subdue him first." While shouting loudly, his clock-like hair stretched straight out and stabbed Qin Ren, and the moment he heard his shout, the others also acted tacitly. Iraka Changyi instantly activated his mimic personality, sneaked into and controlled the ground, and stone spikes drilled out of the ground and stabbed Qin Ren. A bald man's body surface produced countless crystal blocks like gems and diamonds, and launched an impact on Qin Ren. A thin man with a 3 to 7 hairstyle stared at the newcomer, and activated his quirk. The golden hook condensed by the quicksand in Qin Ren's left hand instantly disappeared from Qin Ren's hand and appeared in his hand. A sturdy man also rushed towards Qin Ren with 2 steps, trying to grab Qin Ren's body with his huge hands. Only a thin man wearing a mask did not move, but he also walked towards the 3 to 7 man, trying to touch the golden hook stolen by his quirk with both hands. With such a fast reaction speed, Jizayashi looked indifferent, while the assistant Jiuanji next to him looked horrified. He had not personally witnessed the direct battle of the Iron Cannon Jade Shai clan established by the leader, but he was still clear about their quirks. The quirk of Zhuan Yifuzuo could slow down the movements of people pierced by the hour needle-shaped hair. Once they were hit, they were basically finished. The quirk of Minister Ruka could infiltrate and manipulate objects, which was difficult to guard against and difficult to attack. The quirk of Thief can transfer any object within his sight to his hand, as long as he is watching. The enemy's combat uniform or any props will be useless. Baosheng's quirk is to be able to generate an extremely hard crystal layer on the surface of his body. It is so hard that few people can break it. Tuobing's quirk can absorb the vitality of the target it touches. Duobu's quirk allows him to chew and digest most objects in an instant. With his cooperation with Thief Yi, the enemy's props or manufacturing type quirks will lose their effectiveness. Jai Yuan looked at the rapid siege of the Iron Cannon Jade Shai, and his peripheral vision also included the repairman sitting firmly on the sofa. He couldn't help but sigh for this man in his heart. This man is dead. And Qin Ren, looking at the half of the arm that suddenly disappeared, was also stunned. It would be fine if he just took it away. But it's time to show the real technology. Desert Sword. With his right foot on the ground, the spider web cracks spread as the ground collapsed, and the black coat fluttered. Qin Ren's body turned into a flash of lightning and rushed towards the oncoming Tai Pao Bazhai. The quicksand on his right arm surged, instantly forming a quicksand-long knife, which moved up and down, left and right, and slashed countless times in front of him. The melee skills obtained by exchanging Renuktan's cold hunting and the cruelty and ruthlessness of the lion dog were fully displayed under his extremely fast reaction speed and strong destructive power. The hair pierced by Zhuan Yi's needle was instantly broken into dozens of pieces, and the ground spikes formed by Ruzong Qingyi by sneaking into the ground to control the concrete on the ground were also chopped into dozens of pieces. At the same time, in his right hand, the quicksand rotated at a high speed, forming a vortex. Very small sandstorm. After reducing the mana value and suppressing the scale of the sandstorm to a very small degree, this small sandstorm escaped from Qin Ren's hand. Whoosh whoosh, amidst the fierce whistling of the wind, the sandstorm gradually grew larger, forming a sandstorm more than 2 meters high, passing through the gap between several people with a completely fitting trajectory, and hitting Zhuan Zhen who was behind. Boom! The fierce storm was thrown out at high speed, like an air cannon, smashing Zhuan Zhen out and directly imprinting a human pit on the wall. The combo continued, and Qin Ren followed the action of throwing the sandstorm, and after a fancy rotation in the air for a week and a half, his right leg twisted and changed into a crescent, an arc-shaped sand dune. Originally, it was the arm that was deformed, but Qin Ren used it on his legs and hit a crescent-shaped leg whip. Sitting down from the upper right, the arc-shaped sand dune swept over Huo Ping Li and the many empty bodies behind him. At the moment when the end of the sand dune left the bodies of the two people, the bodies of the strong man in front and the fat man behind had already shriveled up, becoming like mummies. The two men's eyes went black and their bodies fell to the ground. The body rotated again in the air. Qin Ren passed over Bao Shengji's head with his head facing the ground, and patted Bao Shengji's head with his right hand. Desert prison. Just like the live bottle force hit by the arc-shaped sand dune, Bao Shengji's body dried up instantly. The water was sucked out, and his consciousness went black. After another fancy flip, Qin Ren's body landed in front of Thief Nodoya, and his left hand gently poked on the golden hook, just like putting on equipment under the service of a little brother servant. Looking at Thief Nodoya with a horrified face, Qin Ren raised his left arm golden hook and slashed him from left to right. The golden hook poked Thief Nodoya's right shoulder and threw him out. Scorpion poison needle. You are the repairman? Without even looking at the repairman sitting on the sofa, Qin Ren looked at his left hand, turned the golden hook twice with his right hand, and asked in a light tone. Chapter 249 Unexpected Visitors. Seeing Qin Ren's arrogant attitude, Jizayashi slowly stood up. The bird-beak mask covering the lower half of his face made it impossible for Jizayashi to show any expression. At least, in the eyes of Sizufia Yuan, the leader Jizayashi did not react too much to this strange and powerful enemy. Yuan breathed a sigh of relief. As long as they are touched by the decomposition and recast personality of Jizayashi, they will be killed in one blow. Jizayashi, there is a way. Jizayashi just looked at Qin Ren in front of him with a cold face. You are dead. His confident look made Qin Ren a little puzzled. Why did he feel that he was not afraid at all? Wait a minute. Qin Ren seemed to have suddenly thought of something, but at this moment, he noticed that there seemed to be some movement under the ground. Without any hesitation, a golden light flashed, and Qin Ren flashed. Boom! With a loud bang, the ground cracked, and a terrifying explosion and golden light burst out at the same time. Wow! You reacted really fast. The combination of compressed air and explosive gas can't kill you directly. Although he flashed, Qin Ren only flashed a few meters away. A tall man in a suit appeared in his original position. He wore a black mask on his head, or should it be called a hood? There was something similar to a breathing tube on the mask. All for one. Qin Ren was a little surprised. How could this big boss appear here? But Qin Ren was not afraid. He was just a little surprised. The next moment, he saw All for One raised his hand, and with a storm gathering, Qin Ren felt a strong attraction to suck him over. Feeling this power, Qin Ren did not react at all, just standing there, looking at the repairman next to him with some confusion. Why is a foe here? Is there two? Or has a foe taken away the repairman's ability? He knew that a foe could plunder and give personality. Why has the repairman's personality been taken away? I understand. The quirks that the repairman decomposes and recasts can be used for treatment. People who are decomposed and recast by the repairman will be cured of all diseases, big or small. In addition, in the plot, the repairman has shown a move of decomposing his companions and then fusing them into his own body. If this is used, no matter how big the injury is, as long as the hand is still there and the quirk can be used, it can be cured. The quirks of various heroes in society are basically public, and the quirks of various groups that are identified as enemy groups by the hero society are basically circulated in society. Professional heroes even have a special website to exchange information. It is very simple for a foe to find any quirk. The reputation of the Hikayakai is not very low, and it is not strange that the quirk of the repairman is found by a foe who is looking for various healing quirks, right? Moreover, the quirk of the repairman is also super simple to use against All Might. As long as it touches All Might, it will be physically dead. To be honest, there should be many such quirks, right? Shigaraki also has a necrotic quirk, and it should be very simple for a foe to use it against All Might. In fact, Qin Ren is also quite strange. With a foe's ability, it should be easy to collect all kinds of powerful quirks, especially those that can kill with one blow. However, in the original work, a foe is just a fool who can only fight head-on. What about poison, acid, etc.? When fighting against All Might must fight him in close combat, right? So, why doesn't a foe collect such quirks? It seems that a foe, the big villain, is a complete fool in the use of quirks, because he thinks that he has many quirks and is very powerful, so he doesn't bother to do it. So straightforward and stubborn? No way. A foe's performance in the plot is completely the style of a villain boss, and all kinds of words and actions are very cool. This kind of stubborn idea of I must use my ability to defeat you head-on is really what a foe should have. When Qin Ren was looking at the other party also laughed. I didn't expect that there are other people who have multiple quirks like me. Multiple? Is flash considered a quirk? The next moment, Qin Ren saw a powerful force erupting from a foe's feet, and the whole person rushed towards him like thunder. Let me see your personality. You want to take the personality from me, but unfortunately I only have one personality. If you want it, take it. It doesn't matter if I give it to you. Qin Ren complained in his heart, and his hands would naturally not allow the attack. He laughed. You are All for One, right? Do you think your personality is unique? But a foe laughed. Except for All Might, no one will defeat me, even another All for One. The right arm swelled instantly, the muscles swelled instantly, and the twisted muscles piled up on the fist, making the whole right arm become as huge as a monster. Let me see what personality you have. The bones and muscles became clockwork. The arm's strength increased. Shock wave, pushing the air, Qin Ren instantly felt a terrifying shockwave coming towards him. But he was not afraid at all. With his magic power, he hardened the quicksand all over his body. He raised the golden hook formed by the quicksand and stabbed a foe who was rushing towards him. Scorpion poison needle. Boom. With a loud noise, Qin Ren only felt a strong impact force coming, and the two-stage powerful force superimposed on each other. It seems that you didn't impact the reversal of personality. A foe's voice came from the other party. Really? Qin Ren just smiled and didn't refute. The poison transformed by magic power has already rushed into a foe's body along the golden hook. However, a foe instantly felt a terrible pain coming from his body. It seemed that something was raging in his body. A foe's face changed. You actually. However, there was still a hint of ferocity in the other party's smile. But, you are dead. Decomposition and recasting. The personality plundered from the repairer was transmitted to the golden hook through the arm that touched Qin Ren, and then to Qin Ren's body. Qin Ren instantly felt a powerful force surge into his body, trying to disintegrate him from the inside. In response to this move, Qin Ren also took advantage of the situation and turned his body into flying sand. Then, countless flying sand shot towards a foe from all directions, and a foe immediately felt something was wrong and immediately activated his defensive personality, bronze. His body instantly changed from flesh color to bronze. The highly hardened body could easily block bullets. Then, a foe's faint voice rang out. It's useless. However, when the countless flying sands shot and hit his body, a foe felt something was wrong. This power, far beyond all might. Chapter 250. Ola 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 Ola. The moment the scorpion's mana poison and countless flying sands pierced his body, a foe felt countless stings. Those grains of sand actually penetrated his bronze body. Without any hesitation, when he felt something was wrong, a foe immediately used various defensive personalities. Muscle growth, bronze, hardening, crystallization. The multiple superimposed personalities made his body harden again, and the muscles that suddenly grew in value also hardened instantly. Qin Ren instantly felt that the gravel he controlled was strongly blocked, and the speed dropped rapidly, but it did not stop. A foe also felt this, and he used the final defensive personality, impact reversal. In an instant, Qin Ren felt that the power he exerted on the foe's body through the gravel was reversed back. Bang bang bang. Very small bangs sounded in a foe's body, and the countless gravel controlled by Qin Ren shattered under the effect of impact reversal. Qin Ren did not spend mana to maintain the toughness of the gravel, and let the gravel shatter in the impact. He did not continue to control the broken gravel, although with the current range of his control over the gravel, even if the gravel broke a dozen times, it would still be within his control. Why? Of course it was for fun. Killing a foe was not difficult for him now. A petrifying gaze could petrify a foe. 2 seconds was enough for Qin Ren to crush him dozens of times. He only used a little bit of mana to transform the scorpion venom needle, which did not cause much damage. If he used the normal 5% of mana, a foe would have been poisoned dozens of times. Wait a minute, dozens of times? Qin Ren seemed to have a new way to play. The next second, his body, which had been transformed into flying sand by the sand fruit, reassembled and condensed into the posture of crocodile. It's a pity that the brainless with the super regeneration quirk has been taken away. Now the recovery speed of this regeneration quirk is not that fast. A foe activated the regeneration quirk, and the wound slowly recovered. Seeing Qin Ren's body solidified again, his face became serious. The decomposition and recasting quirk is ineffective on him. This man should have a quirk that can decompose his body into sand, just like the Izir who suddenly appeared recently, so the decomposition and recasting quirk is ineffective. Wait, Izir? A foe's eyes examined the scarred man in front of him and laughed. I didn't expect you to be able to take away the quirk of the number 2 hero, or are you Izir? Qin Ren couldn't help but be stunned when he heard it. A foe immediately associated this disguised identity with Izir's identity. However, Qin Ren was very familiar with bragging and nonsense, as expected of a foe. Although I am not as good as you, you still figured it out. My personality is to record and reproduce. It is not only the personality I have seen, but anything that I have recorded, I can reproduce. Qin Ren slightly modified the explanation according to the meaning of copy and imitate, saying that it was his own personality. Then, He twisted his right hand, imitating the changes in a foe's body when he used his personality just now, making his right hand swell instantly, looking like a round of twisted muscles piled up on his fist, making the whole right arm as huge as a monster. In fact, he just made the sand swell. "A foe, your moves, I like it very much," Qin Ren said with a smile, then raised his thick right fist and suddenly slammed towards the foe. "Die, a foe." Listening to Qin Ren's explanation, a foe did not think there was anything wrong. He had a predatory personality like him, so recording and reproducing was not an impossible and difficult personality. After receiving the decomposition and recasting of his personality by the repairman, a foe, who had eliminated all the hidden dangers in his body, chuckled softly. "You are the one who will die." The bones and muscles became clockwork, the arm strength was enhanced, the muscles increased, hardened, bronze, pushing the air, shock wave, impact reversal. A foe's right hand suddenly turned into a huge green arm, and collided with Qin Ren face to face. The moment the two fists met, a terrifying explosion spread from the two people to the surroundings. Boom! When Qin Ren felt a powerful force of nearly 1/3 of his own coming from the other party's hand, he also felt that the force he exerted on a foe was also reversed by nearly 1/3, and this terrifying force exploded in Qin Ren's body. In an instant, Qin Ren felt that the sand armor that was maintained by squandering mana was unstable for a while and almost exploded. However, the same impact reversal also has a limit. If nearly 1/3 of the force is reversed, what about the remaining 2/3? At the moment when his fists met, a foe also felt a terrifying force pouring into his swollen right arm. Crack, 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 hardened, bronzed, muscle strengthened, arm strength increased. The right hand, which had been strengthened in strength and hardness through multiple quirks, suddenly exploded. Flesh and blood burst, blood splattered, bones broke, and the quirks applied to it began to disappear. The next second, when a foe tried to do something, his eyes that could capture high-speed movement saw that the man in front of him had retracted his fists at some point. Both right arms swelled at the same time, and then, ola 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 ola, boom 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 boom. The man in front of him made meaningless sounds while his two huge fists punched out hundreds of times in 1 second. The fists punched out at almost the same time, at more than twice the speed of sound, cut through the air, and struck more than 200 ripples in the air. A foe's eyes were about to burst. How could there be such power and speed? Even All Might didn't have such power. But soon, his consciousness dissipated. With the support of the magic power, the pure force of the punch reached nearly 100 tons. Under the swift attack of more than 200 times per second and faster than the sonic boom, a foe's body was instantly crushed into meat paste. Qin Ren, who was observing the inventory, activated a skill after confirming that a foe was dead, time and space fracture. Moreover, he activated it twice. 10% of the mana disappeared, and Qin Ren's body was instantly covered by the mana shield. He entered a strange posture, reversed time, and returned to 10 seconds ago. Bone and muscles become clockwork, arm strength is enhanced. A foe was reading out the personality attached to his arm with a calm and powerful attitude. Except All Might, no one will defeat me, even another All for One. Yes, yes, you are right. Listening to his voice, Qin Ren got familiar with the situation, then raised his hands high, and the blue light gathered above his head, like thunder and lightning. Looking at Qin Ren, who raised his hands above his head, and the terrifying energy gradually gathering between his hands, a foe felt something was wrong. Without any hesitation, he wanted to retreat. However, at this moment, Qin Ren had already swung his hands down. Arcane pulse, the terrifying energy burst out instantly, and the blue-white pulse of nearly 100 meters wide flashed by. Boom! The area of more than 100 meters wide and more than half a kilometer long was instantly turned into ashes. The surface was plowed into a flat ground by the high-energy pulse, and wisps of black smoke floated above the scorched earth. Countless civilians, villains and professional heroes, including a foe, were turned into ashes in the terrifying energy pulse. Qin Ren clapped his hands and then looked at the inventory. Although killing a foe again did not give him a bag, killing countless civilians and professional heroes gave him a lot of bags. However, Qin Ren was not panicked at all. As for why? Skill activated. Time and space rupture. A familiar voice sounded again. Except All Might, no one will defeat me, not even another All for One. It seemed that he had found a good way to earn vouchers. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.